Chapter 263. Hey, little brother, where are you going in such a hurry? Amidst the green mountains and clear waters, a slightly frivolous voice suddenly sounded. She narrowed his eyes and looked up. Wu Ya and the others had already descended from the sky and blocked his path of retreat. Actually, She had already sensed their aura earlier. But now that he had changed his appearance and didn't have any enemies, he instinctively thought that as long as he behaved himself, no one would find trouble with him. Of course, he really didn't care about Wu Ya and the others. In the Paong realm, he was invincible against those who hadn't comprehended the Tao. So it's you guys. She stood up and looked at the few people who were mocking him. His eyes were gloomy. Although Wu Ya didn't know him, he clearly remembered that these people were the ones who humiliated him in front of the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. If they hadn't stopped him, he might have already had a romantic encounter with Su Yin. Ling Xiao wouldn't have had the chance to act cool. F***CK. But at this time, she didn't expect that Wu Ya and the others would have the qualifications to enter the secret territory. Huh, looks like you know this young master. That's right, it's us. Kid, be honest and don't move. Let us have some fun, and maybe we can spare your life. Wu Ya clenched his fist, and a 10-feet-long sword appeared in his hand. It was overflowing with golden light and murderous aura. It was obviously a rare, killing treasure. Ignorant, she snorted, and flames began to surround his body. In his hand, there was also a heavy black ruler that emitted endless, ferocious aura. Huh? Do you want to compete with me using the saber? Wu Ya was stunned, and the ridicule in his eyes intensified. An ant in the early stage of the Paong realm, with no background, dared to clamor with him. But just as he stepped forward and was about to rush towards Lin Shi, a soft shout came from afar. Brother Lin, let me help you. A graceful figure suddenly descended from the sky and slashed the ancient sword in her hand. She didn't give Wu Ya a chance to speak and instantly rushed toward him. Huh? Shui Yuer. Lin Shi's eyes narrowed, and he couldn't help but feel puzzled. How did she recognize him? However, on the way here, he had heard someone mention that Shui Yuer had a falling out with Xia Chun for some unknown reason and had almost died at the hands of Yuan Yu Holy Son. Moreover, if it wasn't for Shui Yuer's kind reminder, he wouldn't have been able to see through Xia Chun's deceit so easily. Although this woman had a lot of opinions about him before, it seemed that she was not a sinister and despicable person. Shui Yuer? You? Chill. I'm one of young master's men. Quick, act with me. Shui Yuer's pretty face suddenly flashed with a touch of coldness. The ancient sword in her hand ruthlessly slashed towards Wu Ya's head. Young master's men? Acting? What kind of show? With just one sentence, Wu Ya hesitated. After all, even the people behind him had no way of knowing the conversation between him and Ling Xiao. From this, it could be seen that Shui Yu should be one of young master's people. However, to deal with such a lowly mountain ant with their methods, was there a need for them to put on an act? Saintus, how should I act? Don't fight back. Pretend that you were heavily injured by me. A wisp of soul light flashed in Shui Yuer's eyes. The ancient sword in her hand rippled with thousands of rays of light. Between heaven and earth, there seemed to be a ferocious ghost howling. Even the vertical line between her eyebrows began to change into a touch of white color. A wisp of extreme and extreme evil quietly spread out. The temperature of the entire space seemed to have dropped to the freezing point at this moment. She frowned slightly. Instinctively, he used the power of spiritual fire to block the evil energy outside his body. However, facing Saintus Infan's all-out attack, Wu Ya did not panic at all. What a joke. They were all young master's men. Although Saintus Infan's move seemed fierce, how could it really injure him? Shui Yuer, don't think that I don't dare to kill you. Wu Ya slashed horizontally with the giant sword in his hand. An unparalleled momentum descended from the sky, almost shattering the void. This Wu Ya was indeed worthy of being the young master of clan. His cultivation was considered top-notch among his peers. Young master Wu Ya, take it easy. With my small body, I'm afraid that I won't be able to withstand your sword. Shui Yuer's beautiful eyes slightly narrowed as she transmitted a message with her divine consciousness. Saintess, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Wu Yi nodded with a smile and gave Shui Yu a reassuring look. The latter no longer hesitated. The ancient sword in her hand turned into a ghostly shadow and furiously slashed towards Wu Yi. Hum! A deafening buzzing sound resounded through the 9 layers of clouds. We only saw a beautiful figure descending from the sky. The sword in her hand was emitting a cold light as it ruthlessly stabbed towards his heart. Damn it! What should I do? How am I supposed to cooperate with her in this situation? How am I supposed to act so that it doesn't seem pretentious? However, before Wu Yi could ponder for too long, the ancient sword pierced through his heart and came out of his body. Wu Yi's expression instantly became sluggish. He lowered his head and looked at the slightly enchanting face in front of him. His eyes were filled with shock. What the hell are you doing? How can this be? Isn't she young master's woman? Why could it be? She betrayed young master. That must be it. This bitch. Young Master Wu, of course, we have to be serious about acting. If you don't die, how can Lin Shi believe me? Shui Yuer smiled indifferently. Her jade-like hand moved horizontally and directly crushed Wu Yi's heart. Poochie. In the end, the Wu clan's young master did not understand why he died. However, what Shui Yuer said was somewhat reasonable. Everything is for young master. However, it seems that it has nothing to do with me. Of course, if Lin Shi did not feed Elder Ling the medicine, Shui Yuer and Elder Ling's divine consciousness communication would not be hidden from the latter. What a pity. Young master. Looking at the scene in front of them, the surrounding people instantly fell into a daze. Why did young master suddenly withdraw his sword intent? Conspiracy. Shui Yuer must have used some kind of sorcery. Damn. Brothers, avenge young master. Several people roared as they circulated their spiritual energy and furiously rushed toward Shui Yuer, the spiritual seal in their hands, and the sword slammed down. Even with Shui Yuer's strength, she was instantly sent flying while vomiting blood. Saintess Shui. Lin Shi's eyes slightly narrowed. His figure flashed and appeared in front of Shui Yuer. He reached out his hand and pulled her into his embrace. Brother Lin. At this moment, Shui Yuer's beautiful face was completely pale, especially the trace of blood at the corner of her mouth. There was a kind of shocking beauty. At this moment, Lin Shi's heart was somewhat shocked. This was the first woman who was willing to risk her life for him. Although there were some misunderstandings between the two of them before, looking at the trace of shyness in Shui Yuer's beautiful eyes, Lin Shi suddenly felt, life is short. Why hold on to those unattainable beauties? Cherish what's in front of you. Isn't it better? Cough, cough. Brother Lin, I'm afraid I can't hold on anymore. Quickly leave. I'll block them for a moment. Anyway, I have offended Xia-chun. Sooner or later, I will die. Shui Yuer smiled miserably. She fiercely pushed Lin Shi away and rushed towards the crowd. However, at this moment, a broad and powerful palm suddenly grasped her jade-like hand. Saintess Shui, you won't die. Even if I die, I won't let you die. No one can do it. Lin Shi shook his head and pulled Shui Yuer into his embrace. He raised his head and looked at the crowd in front of him. Chapter 264. That's right. I don't have Xia-chen's background, nor his talent. Lin Shi held Shui Yuer with one hand with a gentle look on his face. Didn't you always look down on me? I understand because I came from the wilderness. But today, I want you to know that I, Lin Shi, can do the same for you. After this mystic realm, I will be the king of the eastern border. Puffed. What did he just say? What is he doing in the eastern border? Is he hallucinating now that he's at death's door? F***CK. Let's kill this adulterous couple and avenge young Master Wu Yi. Boom. Before the crowd could finish their words, a strange wave of heat quietly spread out. The raging flames that reached the heavens dyed the entire sky the color of blood. Even Shui Yuer felt an inexplicable palpitation in her heart. She raised her head and looked at the calm face in front of her. There was an indescribable complexity in her beautiful eyes. If things went according to the normal script, the genius of the evil sect would have fallen for him. Unfortunately, her body and soul had already been sold to the devil. No matter how much her heart palpitated, she could only think of one sentence in her heart. You want to be the king of the Eastern border? Is it popular to proclaim oneself these days? Why don't you just become the emperor and unify the Eastern border? F***CK. However, you're right about one thing. I won't die, but you won't live. What is this wave of energy? What a terrifying aura. The figures suddenly stopped in midair, their faces filled with fear. Today, you will be lucky enough to see my true strength. Lin, she smiled disdainfully and clenched his fist. The originally pitch-black heavy ruler suddenly turned crimson. It was as if magma had been poured over it, revealing endless divine power. Brother Lin, Shuei wrapped her hands around Lin Shi's neck and felt the heat surging under his skin. You're so powerful. Haha, you are watched carefully. Lin Shi's lips curled up into a smile. Now that he was done showing off, it was time to deal with this group of rotten fish. The giant ruler in his hand slashed down horizontally like the wrath of the heavens. The void shattered layer by layer under this strike, and the boundless flame burned the ancient forest within a radius of 100 miles into ashes. The earth cracked, and the demonic beasts wailed. It was only when the ruler fell that the entire world fell into a deathly silence. Looking at those geniuses who were clamoring just now, they had already disappeared without a trace. Not even their ashes were left behind. What a terrifying flame. Brother Lin, you are too powerful. Shuei Yu's delicate body trembled as she looked at Lin Shi with fear in her eyes. She wasn't pretending to be surprised. Although those geniuses from the ancient sects were just minor characters, their cultivations were all at the first level of power. But Lin Shi had killed 4 powerhouses of the same cultivation level with a mere swing of his ruler. Everyone knew that Lin Shi had come to provoke him and was crushed by Ling Xiao with a single palm strike. Therefore, most people instinctively thought that this Lin Shi was trash. However, it would appear that not only was he not crippled, but he was also truly powerful. However, if the two of them were to be compared, just how strong was young Master Ling Xiao? Saintess Shuei, how did you recognize me? Lin Shi took out a medicinal pill from his bosom and handed it to Shuei Yu. Eat it. It will heal your injuries. Although Brother Lin's appearance has changed, the righteous and masculine aura on your body hasn't changed at all. How can I not recognize you? But Brother Lin, you know how to refine medicinal pills? Shuei Yu's eyes seemed to be twinkling with starlight, and her pretty face blushed with shyness. Like a girl who had seen her lover, her heart bloomed. Haha, I know a little. The corner of Lin Shi's mouth rose slightly, and his face was full of arrogance. His originally dim eyes were now bursting with a proud light. This is the feeling. Finally, he had found the feeling he had before, and he had regained his masculinity. Since he met Ling Xiao, he had been scared to the point that he had completely lost his confidence. Especially that bastard, who seemed to be able to easily see through his thoughts every time. So much so that his flawless and tenacious Taoist heart had been shattered into a petty and lowly state. But today, when the ruler fell, heaven and earth were silent, all living things were subdued, and the girl in his arms was moaning softly. He felt. Everything came back to him. Haha, it seems that I'm short-sighted. Originally, I looked down on you a little. But today, after seeing your masculinity, I suddenly felt a surge of adoration from the bottom of my heart, and it almost overflowed out of my body. Shuei Yu buried her head in Lin Shi's arms, and the smile on the latter's face became more intense. It seemed that Shuei Yu was the most genuine person he had ever met. Previously, her disdain for him was real, so her adoration for him now was probably real as well. After all, a simple woman like her was never good at concealing her thoughts. Otherwise, why would her eyes always be watery? Master? Even the way she addressed him had changed. But how did you fall out with Xiachen? Lin Shi lowered his head and looked at the girl in his arms, and a trace of gloominess flashed through his eyes. He must kill Ling Xiao. As for Xia Chun, he naturally did not intend to let him go. These two people, one was arrogant, and the other was insidious. Both of them were not good people. If he could let them bite each other, perhaps there would be an unexpected surprise. After all, to open the ancient emperor's remains, he still needed the green devil ancient cauldron in Ling Xiao's hands. With his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to snatch it from Ling Xiao's hands. Humph! That Xia Chun looks upright on the surface, but his heart is very insidious. Previously, he had some misgivings outside the secret realm, but once he entered the secret realm, he repeatedly wanted to do that to me. Shui Yu's eyes reddened, and she was about to cry. I know that the world misunderstands me, saying that I'm a slut who plays with every man I see. But until now, I've only had one Dao companion, and unfortunately, he died in a secret realm. Since then, I've kept myself pure, cultivating in the sect every day and planting flowers and plants. Why would they say that about me? While speaking, Shui Yu suddenly looked at Lin Shi with tears in her eyes. Master, you wouldn't think of me like that, right? How could I? Lin Shi shook his head, but he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Of course, he knew Shui Yu's demon name, but it didn't mean that she was a bad woman. After all, who wouldn't love a fair and virtuous woman? Moreover, Shui Yu risked her life to save him today. With his strength, dealing with Wu Yu was not a problem. But was I looking at her cultivation? I was looking at her attitude. F***CK. How could a proud woman who dared to sacrifice herself for me be a bad person? Even if she had dated countless male cultivators, that was in the past. In the future, when she follows me, Lin Shi, she will be my woman. Lin Shi's woman. Humph. If it wasn't for the saintess, I would have been deceived by Xia Chun. That kind of person who forgets his friends when he sees a woman should be abandoned by everyone. Lin Shi took a deep breath. The most important thing now was to take back the ancient cauldron and find his sister, Bai Ling. In this way, his trip to the secret realm would be an opportunity to change his fate. As for Shui Yu, she was indeed somewhat beautiful. Don't talk to me about ambition and whatnot. If I gave you a young and beautiful woman who took the initiative to throw herself into your arms, I'm afraid you would be more excited than me. Humph. Still calling me saintess? Master, shouldn't you change the way you address me? Chapter 265. What are you going to do next? Lin Shi smiled complacently. His Dao heart that was suppressed by Ling Xiao and Xia Chun began to burst out again. The light of success. I'm just a woman. How can I have any plans? In short, I have completely offended Xia Chun. He has many friends in the eastern border. I am afraid that I will be killed wherever I go. Shui Yu sighed and suddenly got up from Lin Shi's embrace. Today, I wanted to help young master. However, looking at young master's strength, I am afraid that you is not as good as young master. In this case, you is relieved. Young master, now that I am like a stray dog, I will not be by your side and cause you trouble. You must be careful in the future, especially that Xia Chun. He seems to have guessed that you will encounter some opportunities in the secret realm. Shui Yu's face was resolute. She did not give Lin Shi any chance to persuade her to stay and turn around to leave. At this moment, her mind was completely under the control of Ling Xiao. And this method of loosening the reins only to grasp them better, naturally it did not discriminate between men and women. Especially at this moment, Lin Shi was obviously intoxicated. Shui Yu's action had undoubtedly dispelled his worries. Sure enough, before Shui Yu could take 2 steps, a stern shout came from behind her. Are you looking down on me? That Xia Chun is nothing. Since you have nowhere to go, then just follow me. As for those bootlickers of Xia Chun, humph, they better not let me meet them. Otherwise, I will kill every one of them. Lin Shi's eyes were filled with anger, and his expression was cold. But no buts. To tell you the truth, Xia Chun's guess is correct. This secret realm is actually prepared for me alone. Now that things have come to this, I will tell you the truth. The seal of this secret realm was set up by one of my elders. Lin, she smiled faintly and pretended to be unfathomable. A proud woman. Isn't she just a young master who likes to show off? However, the moment he finished his words, he clearly saw a trace of embarrassment in Shui Yuer's eyes. Damn, could it be that I've bragged too much? That's what I said. Even a brainless woman with big breasts wouldn't believe such words. Lin Shi's face reddened, and he smiled embarrassedly. Haha, of course, I'm not sure if that's the case, but there is a relic in this secret realm that is related to the heaven and earth spirit fire. I came here for this relic. Heaven and earth spirit fire? Shui Yuer frowned slightly, and a trace of shock flashed through her eyes. Young master, the attack that you unleashed earlier also contained the might of the spiritual fire, right? Could it be that your body has already merged with the spirit fire of heaven and earth? That's right. The cultivation method I cultivate is passed down from an exalted realm almighty, and I can fuse spiritual fire into my body. I'm not bragging, but when I get that spiritual fire, I'll definitely have the strength to conquer the eastern frontier. Lin Shi smiled complacently, especially when he saw the shock on Shui Yuer's face. It gave him an indescribable satisfaction. It was worship, and he was worshipped by a beautiful woman. This feeling was something that he hadn't felt in a long time. Then, young master, what are we waiting for? Since the eastern border's geniuses are not paying attention to us, why don't we? Shui Yuer came here with a mission. Lin Shi would look for the fire, and Xia Chan would seize the fire. When the two of them fought to the death, the Lord Ling Xiao would appear and reap the fortune. Perfect. Haha, now is not the time. I still have something to prepare. Moreover, the relic must be guarded by the Lost Clan, so we can't take the risk. Lin Shi smiled mysteriously, and he looked at Shui Yuer from head to toe. How should I lure Xia Chun and Ling Xiao to fight? If I can find my sister, with the strength of the three of us, it's not impossible to be the Oriole. What is it? Shui Yuer's beautiful eyes narrowed, and she asked curiously. Haha, in short, that thing is not with me, damn. Aren't you talking nonsense? If it's with you, would you still have the time to talk nonsense with me? Oh, haha, it seems that young master still doesn't trust me. Shui Yuer smiled desolately, and she looked rather miserable. No, Yuer, you almost died for me just now. How can I not trust you? It's just that, sigh, forget it, there's no harm in telling you. To open the relic, I need a spiritual treasure, the green devil ancient cauldron. However, that cauldron was taken away by that bastard Ling Xiao at the Sunset Divine Mountain. I don't know if he has it with him. Lin Shi gritted his teeth, and his face was somewhat sullen. If Ling Xiao really didn't have the cauldron with him, he could only let Elder Ling turn it into the soul force to open the relic. Suddenly, Lin Shi felt that it was quite good that Ling Xiao didn't have the cauldron with him. Green devil ancient cauldron? Shui Yuer opened her mouth slightly, but Lin Shi had already held her hand and pulled her into his embrace. Yuer, since it's still early, why don't we have a deeper understanding? Haha, I'll do as young master says. Shui Yuer's face was slightly red, and she nodded gently. However, a strange soul light suddenly flashed in her eyes. Sure enough, they are all lusting after other people's bodies. Unlike me, who is so honest and upright. Even if they sent themselves to my doorstep, I still rejected them sternly. Somewhere in the secret realm, on a barren mountain, Ling Xiao slowly walked towards a deep stream in the mountain. The green demonic ancient cauldron is actually the key to opening the relic. It seems that I have to think of a way to return it to someone. Fortunately, previously, for safety reasons, Ling Xiao didn't give the cauldron to Lin Ming. After all, it was a spiritual treasure that was related to the main storyline. It might be of great use in the future. However, with the cauldron in his hands, Lin Shi wouldn't be able to play the role of a treasure-hunting beast. Moreover, he cultivated the blazing scripture and could fuse the spiritual fire into his body. Moreover, he had the guidance of an almighty in the revered realm behind him. Naturally, it wouldn't be difficult for him to subdue the spiritual fire. However, Ling Xiao was different. He was a villain. Even if he found the relic and opened it, he would probably end up being trampled to death by the spiritual fire or the remnant soul of an ancient emperor. Such a dangerous matter should be left to the children of destiny. Of course, what we need to do is to give them a big surprise. It should be here. Ling Xiao lowered his head and looked at the stream at the foot of the mountain. There were no ripples in the clear water, and there was a faint fog. Searching for the dragon, dividing the gold, looking at the coiled mountain. Every coiled mountain was a pass. If there were 1,000 locks on the door, there must be a noble here. Ling Xiao twirled his fingers and shook his head with his eyes closed. He spoke eloquently and looked extremely serious. As expected, this dragon-searching formula can really find a dragon. In this stream, there's a dragon aura. Is there a need to search? Isn't that dragon demon lying on the shore? Are you blind? Just as Ling Xiao finished speaking, a clear voice with a hint of mockery came from behind him. In an instant, Ling Xiao felt his hair stand on end and cold sweat appeared on his forehead. Little ancestor, why did you come out? Ling Xiao turned around and saw Feng Ling sitting on the branch of an ancient tree and shaking her legs. She looked as if she was facing a great enemy. He didn't know Feng Ling's level. However, she was definitely above the level of a divine lord. Now that she suddenly appeared, wouldn't she be instantly noticed by the experts in the secret realm and bring about endless disaster? Once the experts in the secret realm started to kill the eastern border disciples, he wouldn't be able to act as the oriole stalking the cicada. Damn, I was too careless. Chapter 266. Why can't I come out? It's none of your business. Feng Ling smiled disdainfully and rolled her eyes at Ling Xiao. Little ancestor, have you sobered up? The latter smiled awkwardly, but his gaze swept across the sky. Damn, will a divine king or divine emperor suddenly appear and kill me while we are chatting? I can't have a moment of peace when I'm a villain. No, little ancestor, I'm in a secret realm now. Sect Master Tai Xian said clearly that once an expert arrives, he will be detected by the Lost Clan here. Detected? Just a few first and second grade divine emperors? I'm afraid Wu Nye can kill them if he gets serious. Feng Ling smiled disdainfully, then reached out her small hand and waved it at Ling Xiao. Give it to me. What? Ling Xiao was stunned. A few first and second grade divine emperors? It was no wonder that Lord Tai Xian alone was able to suppress this secret realm. It turned out that the strongest experts here were only a few first and second grade divine emperors. Huh, but am I too arrogant? I don't even care about divine emperors now. Careful, careful. Most villains die because of carelessness. Xie Qinshou, give me another jar. Don't do it. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes and looked bitterly at the little girl in front of him. It seemed that she was addicted to drinking, but this girl was not good when drunk. Who knew what trouble she would cause after drinking? You're not giving it to me? No. If you can help me, I'll help you call those divine emperors here. As soon as she finished speaking, a strange light suddenly bloomed outside Feng Ling's body. Here, Ling Xiao gritted his teeth and waved his hand to take out a jar of divine wine and threw it at Feng Ling. Humph, that's more like it. Feng Ling smiled slyly and jumped down from the tree. Then, she glanced at the white shadow at the bottom of the deep stream. Suddenly, she kicked a 100-pound rock down. The surface of the rock was covered with a layer of strange, spiritual light. It was silent, but the speed at which it fell. Damn! Ling Xiao's face froze for a moment before he roared angrily. Then, Feng Ling's figure suddenly disappeared. Boom! Roar! Who dares to smash me? Under the mountain stream, a demonic wind blew. All of a sudden, a white demonic figure rushed out and stood proudly in the sky. His eyes were filled with anger, as if he wanted to eat someone. It's you? A human ant? The flood dragon soared into the sky with its bloody mouth wide open. It didn't give Ling Xiao the slightest chance to refute and was about to swallow him whole. Wait! Ling Xiao's body was surrounded by a gust of wind. His entire body was like a gentle breeze in the mountains, and he instantly disappeared from where he stood. No wonder you dare to be so arrogant in front of me. The flood dragon crushed the entire cliff in one bite. When it looked up again, Ling Xiao was already 30 meters away. Would you believe me if I said it wasn't me? Ling Xiao smiled awkwardly. The flood dragon's cultivation was already at the 9th stage of the Divine Lord realm, one step away from the Divine King realm. Originally, he wanted to take advantage of the fact that he was sound asleep to quietly use some medicine on him and place a seal on him to control him. Who would have thought that Feng Ling would kick him awake? As for what Feng Ling said, the strongest in this secret realm was only a first-stage divine emperor. Wu Nye could also kill him. At this moment, he didn't believe a single word. What if this girl wanted to trick him? Wouldn't he become a stray dog? Villains do things. Ruthlessness and decisiveness were necessary. But before that, they had to control the situation and not leave any traces behind. As for the tone and attitude, how many episodes can a brainless, pretentious person live? Please, I'm not the heavenly mandate body. Just to create an atmosphere, I can give up my life? Big brother, that's the model of Long Out Yen. It's not you? Then who is it? If you don't tell me who it is today, I'll eat you alive. But what Ling Xiao didn't expect was that the flood dragon actually believed him. Was it that naive? I see that the king is very handsome and extraordinary, but there's something missing. Ling Xiao's eyes flashed with slyness. This monster in the secret realm was short-sighted and hadn't seen much of the world. Also, he hadn't seen the human heart was complicated. It seemed that he had to teach it a lesson. Something missing? What's missing? The white flood dragon's eyes flashed with hesitation. It looked at Ling Xiao with caution. There's a crown that's missing. How could a monster king, like the king, not have a crown? As he spoke, Ling Xiao waved his hand. The peerless divine artifact that was awarded to the top 3 in the martial arts competition suddenly appeared in his hand. It was none other than the crimson gold hoop. Ling Xiao had studied this hoop in his spare time. It was called the demon trapping hoop. It was similar to the one on the monkey's head. As long as it was tied on the head and cast a spell, it could suppress one's soul and make one suffer. It was originally a treasure in the hands of an expert of the demon-suppressing clan. Later, it fell into the hands of sect master Taishian. A crown. Sure enough, whether it was a flood dragon or a dragon, it was difficult to change its greedy and lustful nature. Moreover, this human ant in front of it was at most in the divine general realm. Why would it care about him? Yes, only by wearing this crown can one match the demeanor of a monster king. A mortal like me doesn't have the guts to wear a crown. Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. He respectfully threw the demon-trapping hoop to the white flood dragon. Humph, at least you know what's good for you. The white flood dragon's fierce eyes narrowed. Demonic aura spread out from its body. It turned into its human form and held the golden hoop in its hand. However, no matter how it urged its spiritual power, the hoop did not change at all. A gloomy look flashed in its eyes. This crown is just an ordinary gold. No, as long as a monster king puts it on your head, you will experience supreme pleasure. Ling Xiao guided it. It was only when the dragon hesitated and put the golden hoop on his head that his lips curled into a smile. Keep. A heart-wrenching scream instantly resounded through the entire mountain stream. Near Gulin Shun, countless monsters looked at the white flood dragon's figure lying on the ground in agony. Their eyes were filled with shock. You, how dare you plot against me? How dare you call yourself my father? Kneel down and call me Daddy. Daddy, stop. Daddy, take it off from me. The excruciating pain from the spiritual soul was not something a mere 9th-grade divine overlord could withstand. In the end, the dragon revealed its true form and rampaged around, but it did not relieve the pain at all. Ling Xiao looked coldly at the middle-aged man kneeling in front of him. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. Now, answer me a few questions. Daddy, please ask. The white flood dragon was filled with hatred, but did not dare to show any disrespect on its face. Who is the strongest in this arcane realm? How many forces are there? Also, has there ever been any strange phenomena? Since Ling Xiao was plotting against the Taishan Dao sect, he could not afford to be careless. If the strongest in this arcane realm were only the first-grade divine emperors, with the strength of layered shadow, even if they sensed her, they would not be able to see her demonic body. The strongest? The strongest is the ancestor of my dragon clan. He has already reached the second-grade divine emperor realm. The rest are the clan leader of the Fire Clan and the ancestor of the Xing clan. They are both second-grade divine emperors, but their combat power is not as strong as the ancestor of my clan. The White Flood Dragon answered everything he knew. He could not wait to tell him the number of men, women, and beauties in these clans. The Fire Clan? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes, and a playful smile appeared on his face. Chapter 267. Indeed, you're all in the first or second stage of the Emperor God realm. But why are your cultivations so low when the spiritual qi in this secret realm is so dense? Ling Xiao frowned and was puzzled. Given the density of the spiritual qi in the last repose, anyone who is slightly talented would be able to reach the Emperor realm. But why were the strongest cultivators here only at the second stage of the Emperor God realm? Something was wrong. We have an agreement with the Old Immortal. We can't reach the third stage of the Emperor realm. He will help us guard the secret realm and not let any cultivators from the outside world enter. The White Flood Dragon pondered. Should he take advantage of the fact that this ant was deep in thought and kill him? Oh, so that's how it is. Relax your mind. Ling Xiao nodded, just as he expected. To be able to make the living beings in the secret realm so obedient, they must have been coerced. But what good would this do to the Taishan Dao sect? Ling Xiao calculated with his fingers. This was a conspiracy. Dad, before the white Jiao dragon could resist, a soul imprint instantly swept into its sea of knowledge and dissipated. Ling Xiao kept the demon trapping hoop and looked into the distance. From the White Flood Dragon's words, he guessed that the Fire Tribe was the one in charge of guarding the spiritual fire relic that Lin she had mentioned. If they wanted to enter the relic to get the fire, they had to get rid of them. Although Wu Nie's combat strength was comparable to a first-stage Emperor God's, there were too many of them. Perhaps the White Flood Dragon could be used, driving the dragon to devour the fire? Double Shadow, go and find the successors of the Supreme Sage Orthodoxy. Leave a few of them alive. Su Yin, Xia Chun, and the rest don't touch them. Ling Xiao said inexplicably. A black shadow flashed past his head in an instant. Before the White Flood Dragon could see clearly, it had disappeared. Let's go. Let's leave this place first. Ling Xiao stepped forward and called the White Flood Dragon, who was in a daze, to the depths of the mountain. At the same time, a vast force shot up to the sky from the center of the secret realm. Then, many figures with terrifying auras swept out from the sky and rushed towards the periphery of the secret realm. The originally calm mystic realm was finally shaken by the appearance of the overlapping shadow. In the depths of the secret realm, in front of a pitch-black mountain, a black-clothed figure stood with his hands behind his back, looking up at the peak of the mountain. Behind him, a white-haired old man with a humble appearance stood quietly at the side. Although his attitude was humble, his aura was extremely vigorous. He was actually a martial emperor. In the next 2 days, make some preparations and wait for my orders to open the ruins. The black-clothed youth did not reply, and his tone was extremely cold. What opened this place? My lord, you want to... Behind him, the white-haired old man's expression suddenly changed, and there was a faint trace of fear in his eyes. Don't ask what you shouldn't ask. The black-clothed youth turned his head, revealing a pair of dim eyes. However, under such a pair of blinded eyes, the God Emperor seemed to see reincarnation in the universe. His face turned pale, and he knelt on the ground with a thud. Yes, on the other side, Ling Xiao was riding on the white Jiao dragon. His figure shuttled through the forest, attracting the attention of countless demonic beasts. So, the White Jiao Dragon clan was born in this secret realm. Ling Xiao frowned slightly, and a look of contemplation flashed across his eyes. Although these natives of the secret realm had not seen much of the world, if he swaggered into their territory, he would most likely die. After all, in the eyes of these demons in the secret realm, all the disciples of the eastern border who came to train were enemies. If not for their fear of sect Master Taishian, they would have already killed them one by one. Yes, Master. According to the ancestor, our clan was born hundreds of years ago, and the blood of the true dragon flows in our bodies. This white Jiao dragon was called Yi Lang, and he was a direct descendant of the Jiao Dragon clan. However, he had a bad relationship with the young master of the Jiao Dragon clan and was expelled, so he hid in the mountains alone and waited for death. Blood of the true dragon. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, and a playful smile suddenly appeared on his face. Tell me about it. It is said that the ancestor of the white Jiao Dragon clan was born from a true dragon who followed a powerful cultivator and had intercourse with a white python in this secret realm. Half of the blood of the true dragon runs in his body. However, after the death of our ancestor, the blood of the white Jiao Dragon clan has become more and more mixed. Yi Lang smiled bitterly. Although Ling Xiao had planted a soul seal on him, he had not completely lost his mind. As long as Ling Xiao did not forcefully interfere, he was still a happy mountain demon. True dragon and python. It is quite mixed. Has your clan ever seen the true dragon ancestor? A sly look flashed across Ling Xiao's eyes. How is that possible? Even our ancestor has never seen the divine ancestor. However, according to our ancestor, he was once summoned by the divine ancestor in a dream. He said he would come back to visit our clan when he has time, but it has been hundreds of years. Yi Lang sighed, and his expression was rather lonely. Haha, actually, I was sent by your divine ancestor to visit you. Come, let's go and meet the elders of your Jiao Dragon clan. Ling Xiao chuckled. However, Yi Lang was a little confused. Master, you can't say such things carelessly. If we offend the divine ancestor and the others find out, but moreover, I can't return to the clan. If I go back, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death by Yi Lu and the others. What did you do back then to be expelled from the Jiao Dragon clan? Ling Xiao did not care at all. However, he was slightly interested in Yi Lang's experience. Back then, I slept with a female Jiao. That Jiao was the fiancée of the clan leader of the Jiao Dragon clan. Yi Lang chuckled. However, Ling Xiao looked at him strangely. It seems that there's a reason for us to meet. It's fine. This time when we return to the clan, I will bestow that Jiao to you. Bestow it to me? Master, that Jiao was suppressed in the locked Jiao abyss. I'm afraid she has been refined to death by now. Yi Lang was stunned for a moment. There was some hesitation in his expression. F*CK, you're just a human ant. If you didn't scheme against me, would I, a dignified 9th grade divine lord, be subdued by you? It's fine if you act tough in front of me. Later, when you reach the Jiao Dragon clan, you won't even know how you died. But if you want to die, just die. Why do you have to drag me down with you? Master, actually, I don't mind. After being out for so long, I've already forgotten the way home. It's fine. I'll help you think. Ling Xiao smiled eerily. Yi Lang swallowed a mouthful of saliva and rushed towards the center of the secret territory. At the same time, at the periphery of the secret territory, Su Yin looked at the beautiful figure in white, not far away with hatred. There was a trace of helplessness in his beautiful eyes. Goddess Nian, this is already the 3rd spiritual herb that you have snatched from me. Goddess, have you been following me all this time? Behind him, the group of lackeys also looked gloomy. However, none of them dared to take a step forward. Nian Xingyun's identity made them somewhat apprehensive. Moreover, even though she had already broken off her engagement with Ling Xiao, she was still very much in love with him. But that day on Enlightenment Peak, the descendant of Ling people looked as if he was going to die. It was obvious that he was deeply in love with Nian Xingyan. If they accidentally hurt this cold and arrogant goddess, wouldn't their heads be smashed by that devil Ling Xiao? Snatch your spiritual herb? In the distant mountain peak, Nian Xingyun's beautiful eyes looked at the crowd calmly. She said in a puzzled tone, "So what if I did?" Chapter 268. You. Su Yin frowned, and her eyes turned gloomy. This Nian Qingyan was really strange. She had broken off her marriage with Ling Xiao, but now she was deliberately targeting her. Of course, if it weren't for Ling Xiao, Su Yin couldn't think of a reason for Nian Qingyan's actions. After all, these two famous beauties rarely appeared in the same place. After all, it was too cruel for the Xingzhou geniuses to do so. One brought chaos to all races, cold and arrogant, while the other was rich enough to rival the world, sickly and delicate. If the two of them were to stand together, they would probably force many bootlickers to death, right? Who should I lick? Lick together? F***CK. Wouldn't that make my position unstable? The goddesses hated unfaithful bootlickers the most. Miss Su Yin, why are you talking nonsense with her? Nian Qingyan has robbed us 3 times. I think she's deliberately targeting you. Let me go up and teach her a lesson. Next to Su Yin, a young man with a rough face and cultivation at the middle stage of Paoang snorted coldly. Although Nian Qingyan was the top genius of the eastern border, but wealth came from danger. If she didn't show off now, when would she? You? Su Yin sized up the person next to her, but she didn't stop him or agree. Her tone was inexplicably sarcastic. Huh, miss, just watch. Nian Qingyan. Oomph. The rough young man sneered, and 2 pitch-black axes suddenly appeared in his hands. He took a step forward and was about to pounce on Nian Qingyan. Wait a minute, brotherly Gouei. Nian Qingyan is powerful. Why don't you let me fight her with you? Behind Su Yin, another genius stepped forward. F***CK. You want to be in the limelight. How are we going to win Miss Su Yan's favor if you're the only one who can boast? Huh? You don't believe me? The young man, namely Gouei, frowned and coldly looked at the person behind him. Haha, Senior Brother Li, you're too serious. I'm just afraid that Senior Brother Li will die in the hands of Goddess Nian. You, I think you're deliberately humiliating me. Humph, humiliating you? Are you worthy? F***CK. Fight me if you have the guts. Boom. Su Yin held his forehead and sighed as he watched the 2 ancient sect geniuses fight. However, there was a trace of helplessness in his eyes as he looked at Nian Qingyan. With the strength of the group of bootlickers behind her, it was absolutely impossible for them to be a match for Nian Qingyan. Although she was famous in the Shenzhou continent, it was not because of her strength, but because of her money. Moreover, Ling Zhao's infatuation on the summit of Enlightenment Mountain that day had already reached her ears through the mouths of everyone. If she were to send her lackeys to make a move on Nian Qingyan today, that wife-protecting maniac would definitely not let her off. After all, that person did not even take Tai Xian Daozi seriously. Even when Xia Chun expressed his love for Nian Qingyan, he was slapped to pieces. This was the mystic realm. Even if Ling Xiao killed her, no one would know. Moreover, she had intended to use Ling Xiao as a spare tire to solve the problem of her own body. Goddess Nian, I know that you have some prejudice against me, but I still want to tell you that I will cherish what you don't cherish. If you think that I care about these spiritual herbs, you can continue. Su Yin turned his head and glanced at the countless bootlickers behind him. He waved his hand gently, and streaks of spiritual herbs and spiritual fruits fell from the sky and covered the ground. These are my rewards to you all. Wow, it's the Jade Essence Celestial Fruit. F***CK. It's the Black Blood Ganoderma. I'm rich. I'm rich. Su Yan's eyes flashed with a trace of mockery when he saw this scene. He looked at Nian Qingyan from afar and said, Goddess, do you want it? I still have many in my cosmos bag. Even if I don't want it, no one else can touch it. Otherwise, they will die. Nian Qingyan said faintly. Then, with a light step, she disappeared from where she stood. Humph, if we weren't in the mystic realm. A trace of coldness flashed in Su Yan's eyes, but he didn't say anything in the end. He just looked at the people who were crazily picking up treasures in front of him, and his eyes became colder. On a mountain peak far away, Xia Chun looked at Nian Qingyan, who had turned around and left. The corners of his mouth curled into a playful smile, and he disappeared from the spot. You said that your beloved female flood dragon was sent to the Sui Jiao Abyss? Where's that place? In the depths of the mystic realm, Ling Xiao stepped on the white flood dragon and felt a little bored. That is the forbidden area of my tribe. It is said that it has existed for a long time. As for how long, I get to the point. Ling Xiao sighed. Along the way, he found that although the white flood dragon had been imprinted with a soul seal, it didn't affect its ability to talk. Oh, no matter how big the mistake of my tribe's descendant is, they will not be executed directly. Instead, they will be sent to the Sui Jiao abyss to fend for themselves. But can you not keep me in suspense? Say it all at once. Ling Xiao fiercely kicked the white flood dragon's head. The latter immediately grimaced in pain and almost fell from the sky. I heard from the elders in the tribe that there is a great demon in the Sui Jiao abyss that eats the flesh of my tribe. In fact, those who have committed a mistake are thrown down as sacrifices. Yi Lang's body trembled. His fierce eyes flashed with fear. Great demon? How great is the demon? Hearing this, Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. In this world, there is a greater demon than him? Master, I have never seen it before. Anyway, when my tribe mentions the Sui Jiao abyss, we all tremble in fear. Even the ancestor is no exception. Then why weren't you thrown down? What kind of joke is this? I am the third young master of the tribe. Besides, she was the one who seduced me and drugged my wine. A slut like her naturally has to die. But why should I die? Just as Yi Lang finished speaking, he suddenly felt a huge force coming from the top of his head. It directly smashed him down from the sky and smashed the entire barren mountain before stopping. Moss, Master, first of all, later on, don't call me Master. Call me Young Master. Secondly, I despise sluts like you who won't even let their sister-in-law go. Ling Xiao fiercely gritted his teeth. If it wasn't for the fact that Yi Lang was still useful, he would have already killed him. What's wrong with drugging my wine? Look at Nian Qingyun. Isn't she also very happy? Yes. Yi Lang's heart trembled. So, this master is actually so righteous. But what is sister-in-law? Is she more delicious than dumplings? Until a large swamp appeared in front of them. On top of the swamp, there was a faint ancient temple. Yi Lang's figure stopped again. He turned back into his human form and stood beside Ling Xiao. Moss, young master, we're here. This is the ancestral land of my tribe. Let's go. Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. He didn't care about the fear on Yi Lang's face. He lifted his foot and walked towards the center of the swamp. However, just as the two figures appeared above the ancient temple, a furious roar suddenly resounded. Where did this ignorant ant come from? How dare you trespass into the sacred place of my tribe? Several figures with terrifying auras suddenly flew down from below and surrounded Ling Xiao and Yi Lang in the air. Yi Lang. The leader of the group was a second-grade divine king. He had a dignified appearance and was about the same age as Yi Lang. In particular, the aqua-blue scale between his eyebrows revealed the aura of the law of Tao. The law of water? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly. However, the corners of his mouth curved into a faint smile. Damn, one unexpected little surprise. Chapter 269. Yi Lang, you bastard. How dare you come back? The king of the Flood Dragon clan shouted coldly. Spiritual energy filled the air around him as he rushed towards Yi Lang. Yi Lu, don't be rude. Do you know who this is? Yi Lang's face darkened and there was fear in his eyes. The person in front of him was his eldest brother, the current king of the Flood Dragons. Humph, a mere human ant. What, Yi Lang? Is this the reason you dare to come back? Yi Lu sneered. He naturally knew about the opening of the secret territory. The younger generation of the Flood Dragons had already gone to the outer regions to hunt down the human prodigies who had treasures in their hands. Even if the young man in front of him had a supreme status in the outside world, he was nothing in the last repose. After all, the elder immortal had promised that with him around, no strong cultivators would be able to enter the secret territory. How dare you? A mere wild dragon dares to be impudent in front of me. Before Yi Lang could open his mouth, Ling Xiao, who was in front of him, had already shouted angrily. He suddenly waved his hand, and a palm print flickering with lightning instantly tore through the void and fiercely pressed towards Yilu. Gulp! Yilang gaped at the scene in front of him. He was so scared that his face turned pale. This young master was too bold, wasn't he? He dared to attack the king of gods when he was only in the Pong state? No, he should have taken out that headband and used the same trick to trick Yilu into putting it on. Then he could have acted cool. What was the difference between acting cool and courting death? If Ling Xiao hadn't planted a soul imprint in his soul, Yilang would most likely have turned around and fled. Humph! Ignorant child, you're looking for her. Yilu laughed coldly. However, before he could finish speaking, intense panic suddenly flashed through his eyes. At the same time, an extremely fierce aura spread out in the sky above the ancestral land of the flood dragons. That terrifying aura that was like the might of the heavens seemed to be the legendary might of a true dragon. At that moment, Yilu didn't dare to move. He allowed the palm print to hit his face. He fell from the sky and landed heavily in front of the divine temple of the flood dragons. Who is it? Who is courting death? Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. Looking at the shocked faces of the members of the flood dragon tribe, his eyes were filled with mockery. Believe in the true dragon? A trace of true dragon blood flowed in his body. Sorry, I have a real dragon in my crotch. Huahua wrapped itself around Ling Xiao's thigh and stared blankly at him. Master was really strange. One moment, he let her release her aura, and the next moment, he forbade her from moving. Just now, he actually asked for a drop of blood essence. So annoying. I can't even sleep well. Gulp! Yilang looked at Ling Xiao beside him with a terrified expression. Just now, he had actually felt a trace of the sacred might of the true dragon from this youth. Although he had never seen a true dragon since he was born, he had never seen one before. But the suppression that came from the bloodline and soul couldn't be wrong. This young man was a real dragon in human form. F***CK. If you had said earlier that you were a true dragon, you wouldn't have had to go through so much trouble to put a seal on me. Don't call me father. You're my ancestor. Unknowingly, Yilang's expression changed. It wasn't reverence, but a kind of infinite arrogance. Flood dragons, open your dog eyes wide and look carefully. My father is a true dragon. Why aren't you kneeling when you see me? Ling Xiao looked coldly at the group of powerful flood dragons. The arrogance on his face made him look like a dragon god that had descended from the 9 heavens. He was sacred and majestic, and no one could provoke him. Plop! The originally unfriendly flood dragons felt their minds go blank. They actually knelt on the ground instinctively. Yilu, right? You're the leader of the flood dragons? Ling Xiao's figure descended from the sky. He stood in front of Yilu, whose face was swollen, and sneered. Who exactly are you? Who I am is not important. What's important is how many people in the white flood dragons still believe in the dragon bloodline. Ling Xiao looked up at the sky, his eyes filled with sorrow. You've really disappointed me. Buzz. Another wisp of dragon power spread out. The entire land of the flood dragons instantly stirred up a foul wind. Even the flood dragon ancestor, who had been in seclusion for an unknown number of years, suddenly opened his eyes. There seemed to be endless joy in the depths of his eyes. Is this the divine ancestor's aura? Could it be whoosh? Suddenly, there were countless sounds of wind breaking in the distant sky. Powerful flood dragons with powerful auras walked out of their cave abodes one after another and headed towards the holy temple. Behind Ling Xiao, Yilang's face was slightly pale, but his expression was extremely cold and arrogant. Yilu, what's going on? And who is this person? An old figure descended from the sky and stood beside Yilu. He sized up Ling Xiao with a serious gaze. He didn't feel any demon aura from this young man. Instead, he seemed to be a human. But that dragon power just now. Greetings, ancestor. The group of people from the Flood Dragon clan immediately bowed and shouted at the old man. Ancestor Yi Can? He seems to be a true dragon. What? The Flood Dragon ancestor's eyes narrowed. His old eyes were filled with doubt and shock. A true dragon. Did the divine ancestor send him to lead them to the nine heavens' immortal world? This, young friend, may I know who you are? Humph. I'm the young master of the great mighty heavenly dragon clan. I happen to be here to train. I heard that an elder of my clan left his bloodline here, so I came to take a look. I didn't expect you. Ling Xiao glanced at Yi Lu coldly. The latter's body instantly trembled. A wisp of coldness inexplicably spread from the bottom of his feet. What? The great mighty heavenly dragon clan? Yi Qian's eyes shone brightly. Although he had never heard of this clan, it was obviously an extremely terrifying and ancient clan. Great mighty heavenly dragon, majestic and ancient, named after the heavens. It was mixed with holy intent and filled with murderous intent, as expected of the name of my clan's divine ancestor. However, from what this young man said, my clan's divine ancestor is only an elder, and he is the young master of that clan. Unknowingly, Yi Qian's old face had already revealed a humble expression. Even his figure gradually became a little hunched. How many years has it been? How many years has it been since he, a dignified god emperor, felt such excitement? Could it be that the spring of my Flood Dragon clan is coming? You said you're the young master of the Heavenly Dragon clan. Do you have any proof? Yi Lu gritted his teeth and asked coldly, How dare you? A mere bastard dares to question my identity. Ling Xiao shouted angrily. He waved his hand again. A wisp of dragon power spread out and directly slapped Yi Lu to the ground again. He couldn't get up for a long time. So domineering. This is the feeling. This is the aura that a young master of the true dragon clan should have. On the contrary, if this young man took out any so-called proof, it would be suspicious. After all, why should a true dragon care about the opinions of a flood dragon? However, I came here today and met this young flood dragon by chance. My words were extremely humble. I'm very happy, so I'll bestow upon you a fortune. Ling Xiao stretched out his hand and called Yi Lang in front of him. He flicked his finger lightly, and a drop of blood instantly flew from his fingertip and fell into the latter's mouth. The mighty dragon power surged and surged. At this moment, all the experts of the Flood Dragon clan were shocked. Chapter 270. Demonic beasts swallowed the essence of the sun and moon, absorbed mountains and seas, and experienced thousands of tribulations before they could attain their Tao. Therefore, in the same realm, the combat power of the demon race was often stronger. However, similar to the human race, they were extremely talented and had luck. It was true that they could reach the peak of the world. However, regardless of their identity and background, in the same realm, although spiritual treasures were external forces, they also determined the combat power to a certain extent. As for the demonic beasts, they had an insurmountable shackle. It was their bloodline. The stronger their bloodline, the stronger their awakened abilities. There are even some primordial beasts whose bloodline alone could suppress countless races. It wasn't that such bloodlines couldn't be killed, but it was enough to cause fear in people's hearts, causing them to be restrained and not dare to act rashly. Especially among the same race, the more noble and ancient the bloodline, the more obvious the suppression of the same race. For example, at this moment, the Flood Dragon ancestor was already an Emperor God expert, but when he saw the drop of golden blood, he felt his heart tremble and his legs go soft. He almost knelt on the ground. As for the remaining divine overlords and divine kings, they prostrated on the ground without hesitation. Their bodies trembled, and even their breathing became subdued. The blood of a true dragon. This was a treasure that could change the nature of the Flood Dragon race's bloodline. In the eyes of the Flood Dragon race, even the treasures of the world were not as precious as this drop of blood. Gulp! At this moment, no one doubted Ling Zhao's identity anymore. After all, that kind of trembling from the soul could not be deceived. This was a drop of true dragon blood. Moreover, it was the most ancient and noble dragon race's heavenly might. Yi Lang's expression was blank. He instinctively opened his mouth and swallowed the drop of golden blood. In the next moment, the wind and clouds above the flood dragon race suddenly changed. Thunderclouds faintly gathered and covered thousands of miles of rivers. It's the lightning tribulation. Look, it's the lightning tribulation. The entire land of the flood dragon race began to let out deafening cheers. Outside Yi Lang's body, monstrous demonic aura surged into the sky, faintly turning into a black dragon shadow. It raised its head and roared, shocking thousands of miles. Along with the roar, the pressure of a true dragon spread out, causing all the WIRM clan members to lower their heads. They wanted to urinate, and their bodies began to tremble uncontrollably. Dragon transformation! Dragon transformation! This is the true dragon's might. It's dragon might. Yi Shun was so excited that tears streamed down his face, and his eyes were filled with infatuation. He regretted it. If he had not gone into seclusion and met the young master of the great mighty heavenly dragon clan, would this opportunity have belonged to him? Therefore, regardless of whether one was a human or a demon, they should go out more often. What kind of fortuitous opportunity could he encounter if he was cooped up in his nest all day long? Boom! A sky full of lightning bolts descended from the sky, ruthlessly smashing into Yi Lang's body, instantly tearing his skin and flesh to shreds. However, at this moment, there wasn't the slightest bit of pain or fear in his eyes. Instead, there was a wisp of dense battle intent. I'm a true dragon. What can a heavenly tribulation do to me? Yi Lang abruptly took a step forward, and his entire body suddenly soared into the air. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into a gigantic figure of 1,000 feet. A pitch-black dragon scale suddenly appeared above his head. The aura it emitted caused the world to faintly tremble for an instant. This Yi Lang's bloodline is stronger than the other members of the Flood Dragon clan. Ling Zhao's eyes flashed. He really did not expect that a mere drop of dragon blood could make Yi Lang break through the divine overlord realm and enter the first divine king realm. He also did not expect the Flood Dragon clan's bloodline to be so lowly. A single drop of blood was enough to make them submit completely. If he had known this would happen, he would not have gone through so much trouble. He would have just ridden Floey here. Who would dare to submit to him then? As for why he did not summon Floey now, haha, when it comes to acting tough, of course, it's better to do it myself. However, speaking of which, if he stewed Floey and ate it, would he be able to mutate like Yi Lang? After all, according to the plot of many novels, dragon blood was the best spiritual treasure for tempering one's body. What the hell? Heartless? How greedy? Boom, boom. The heavenly tribulation lightning fell like a waterfall, enveloping the entire Flood Dragon clan's territory. At this moment, even the remaining experts of the ancient and aristocratic families stood in the air and looked over. This fluctuation, could it be that Yi Jinseng has broken through? Impossible, right? Does he want to die? Elder Immortal said that if anyone dares to, but if it's not him, why would the heavenly tribulation lightning be so powerful? Could it be that another member of the Flood Dragon clan has entered the Martial Emperor realm? Many experts' eyes flashed with a hint of gloominess. They turned and landed in the direction of the Flood Dragon clan. No matter which world it was, there was always a delicate balance between the forces. Once this balance was broken, a war would begin. In the end, a ray of light pierced through the clouds and landed on the Flood Dragon clan's territory. Only then did everyone raise their heads and look at the figure standing between heaven and earth. At this moment, Yi Lang had already transformed back into his human form. His outer clothes were all torn, revealing his strong muscles. Outside his body, the aura of a divine king surged like the sea quietly spread out. There was also a trace of an indescribable and terrifying aura mixed with it. And under everyone's jealous and respectful gazes, Yi Lang's heart moved, and he suddenly descended from the sky. He stood in front of Ling Xiao and then respectfully knelt down. "Thank you, young master, for bestowing me with such great fortune. Get up. It's just a drop of blood." Ling Xiao shook his head slightly. His expression was extremely indifferent. Then, he turned to look at the crowd in front of him and said calmly, "Now, is there anyone else who doubts my identity? We don't dare. Welcome to the Flood Dragon clan, young master. We have neglected you previously. Please forgive us." Yi Shun was the first to kneel. The entire Flood Dragon clan's territory instantly stirred up a boundless wave of noise. "Welcome, young master. Forgive." Ling Xiao shook his head. "My dignity is not to be offended." This, Yi Shun frowned slightly. Meanwhile, Yi Lu had already clamped his legs together. His head was sweating, and he was just short of shitting and urinating. "Damn, you're such a big shot, but you have to be so low-key. You've directly released the aura of a true dragon. How could I be disrespectful to you? Men, stew Yi Lu for me. Let the young master taste the taste of the Flood Dragon clan tonight." Yi Shun snorted coldly. Yi Lu's vision instantly turned black, and he collapsed on the ground. "Young master, I was wrong. Please spare my life. I can pledge my allegiance to you and be your mount." "Be my mount? Are you worthy?" Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. He lifted his leg and walked in front of Yi Lu. He frowned slightly and looked at the Flood Dragon clan's ancestor, Yi Shun. "I usually kill those who offend me personally. But, Yi, what's your name again? Haha, I see that young master is a few hundred years younger than me. Why don't you call me brother?" Yi Shun bowed humbly. He almost took out a flower seed and lit it for Ling Xiao. "Oh, brother Yi, are you sure he won't resist?" "Resist? How dare he?" Yi Shun's eyes narrowed. He immediately snorted coldly and took a step forward. He lifted his leg and fiercely stepped on Yi Lu's head. Although Yi Lu was the master of the Flood Dragon clan, his cultivation was only a second-stage divine king. Now that Yi Lang was recognized by the heavenly dragon young master, he stepped into the divine king realm in a day and had the aura of a heavenly dragon. Such a person was the future of the Flood Dragon clan. If he could use Yi Lu's death to exchange for another drop of true dragon blood essence from the young master, then I don't have to worry. Why don't we let him transform into his true form before we kill him? He'll have more meat that way." Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. His smile was a little shy. "Didn't you hear what the young master said? Transform into your true form." Yi Shun fiercely kicked Yi Lu. The latter immediately let out an unwilling roar and transformed into his true form. He crawled on the ground and trembled. However, just as he raised his head and wanted to try his best to beg a few more words, "Shit, he's drawing his sword. Watch out, I'm going to cut you." Before Yi Lu could speak, a pitch-black sword suddenly appeared in Ling Xiao's hand, and then he suddenly swung it and directly chopped off Yi Lu's head. At the same time, Yi Lu's soul and bloodline completely vanished. "The Tao of Water is in my hands." A wisp of a smile flashed through Ling Xiao's eyes. However, his expression was still cold and indifferent. "All right, let's deal with it. Quick, quick, come over and stew it." Yi Shun hurriedly waved his hand. His gaze towards Ling Xiao grew even more terrified. "That sword just now, hiss. Wait a minute." However, just as the experts of the Flood Dragon clan carried Yi Lu's corpse to the rear hall, Ling Xiao suddenly opened his mouth and stopped them. "Remember, put more green onions and add some garlic paste for me." Chapter 271. In the Divine Palace of the Flood Dragon clan, a group of experts of the Flood Dragon clan stood quietly and looked at the white-robed young man sitting at the top of the palace. Yi Lang stood beside him with a face full of respect. "Brother Yi, these are the divine king experts of your Flood Dragon clan? Just the three of them?" Ling Xiao looked coldly at the experts of the Flood Dragon clan standing below him with disdain. To be honest, my Flood Dragon clan is considered better. We have won the Arch 4 Kings. The other demon clans in the Last Repose have even fewer experts." Yi Shun smiled awkwardly. He seemed to be looking forward to it. "But, young master, actually if we can, I wonder if young master has any plans. Also, that divine ancestor of my clan, what realm is he at now?" "Sai, your clan's divine ancestor has already passed away a few years ago. Otherwise, why do you think I came here? Before he died, He held my hand and repeatedly asked me to take care of you and lead you when I have time. He said he was worried. Ling Xiao sighed. His tone was inexplicably serious. What? The divine ancestor, actually. Suddenly, a wisp of sorrow surged from the hearts of Yi Shun and the others. It's over. The divine ancestor had passed away. Their entire clan's hope could only be placed on this young master. This was an opportunity. They must seize the time and serve this young master well. Perhaps he would give them a chance to become dragons, if he was happy. However, since I promised my clan's elders that I would protect you, I naturally won't go back on my words. But Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly flashed with gloominess. Why do I feel that this secret realm hides some unspeakable secret? Young master, have you sensed it? Yi Shun's expression shook. Then he sighed softly. To be honest, young master, I have already sensed the strangeness of this place when I was young. As expected, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. Brother, tell me about it. In the beginning, there were no humans in this mystic realm. But later, 2 human powerhouses fought here and slaughtered countless creatures. In the end, one of them died and left behind a descendant, while the other disappeared. However, 300 years ago, an old immortal suddenly came here and set the rules with our clans. He also helped us get rid of our enemies and establish the current situation of the 3 clans. Old immortal, are you talking about sect Lord Taishian? Ling Xiao muttered to himself. Sure enough, there was something fishy going on. The Lord of Taishian made a move for no reason and established the order. It was absolutely impossible that he had nothing better to do. However, he did not take any action to fight for the good fortune of the fallen expert. Instead, he opened up the mystic realm regularly to attract the geniuses of the eastern border to train here. What exactly was he plotting? We don't know who he is, but his cultivation is terrifying. All the rank 5 emperor gods and above were killed by him. All the experts in the mystery land regard him as a deity. Fear flickered in Yi Shun's eyes. Even when he mentioned sect Lord Taishian, his face turned pale. Then, little brother, where is the place where that expert fell? In the sacred mountain where the fire tribe is. Yi Shun did not dare to hide it. Moreover, there was nothing to hide. The entire mystic realm knew about it. Sure enough, an ancient emperor who merged with the spirit fire of heaven and earth must have extremely terrifying combat power. However, he was still killed here. Then who killed him? Ling Xiao frowned and fell into deep thought. It seemed that he still had to go to the fire tribe to find out. Perhaps the remnant soul of the ancient emperor was still there. When the time came, he could chew on it and search it. Everything would come to light. Ha! Young master, you see, you came all the way here. Our dragon tribe has nothing to offer you. Our tribe leader has already stewed it for you. Why don't you go to our tribe's treasure vault and take a look? Oh, Ling Xiao nodded. You are very good. Thank you for your compliment, young master. Young master, please follow me. Hearing Ling Xiao's compliment, Elder Yi Shun's eyes flashed with pride. He turned around and walked towards the back of the mountain. Wonderful. After eating the dragon meat, he would obtain the Tao laws and even take the initiative to offer the creation. Although it would be easy for Ling Xiao to obtain the dragon tribe's foundation with his means, it felt different. Snatching the creation, wasn't that what the children of destiny should do? I am a villain. Of course, wherever I go, it will be my home. Yi Jinseng's footsteps only came to a stop when a few of them arrived in front of the cave. He suddenly waved his hand, and a mysterious brilliance instantly blossomed from the cave. A frightening spiritual energy that caused one's heart to surge instantly overflowed. Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes, especially when he felt the gentle spirit chi fluctuation that was like a tide. He started to become excited. This dragon is indeed hard to change, greedy and lustful. However, just as Ling Xiao was about to walk towards the cave, he suddenly thought of something. He waved his hand and locked Flower in the demon's suppressing tower. Otherwise, if this dog got too excited and jumped out, wouldn't it scare Elder Yi Shun? Naughty. Ha! Young master, this is where my tribe's foundation lies. Take a look and see if there's anything you like. Yishan bowed and led Ling Xiao into the cave. Countless spirit stones and treasures were placed in the dark cave. Although there were no Dao artifacts, there were still many high-grade divine artifacts and spiritual materials. Haha. Young master, please take your pick. Little brother, can I really take my pick? Ling Xiao grinned. His tone was somewhat hesitant. Of course. It is my tribe's honor to be chosen by young master. Yi Jinseng stood at attention on the spot, his figure ramrod straight, and his appearance was filled with awe-inspiring righteousness. Haha, right. I won't refuse then. Ling Xiao raised his hand and patted Yi Shun's shoulder. Then, spirit chi flashed in his hand. The cave that was still rippling with spirit chi suddenly turned completely dark. Yi Shun stood on the spot and rubbed his eyes hard. For a moment, he thought he was blind. Ha, little brother, let's go. I'm very happy today. Ling Xiao turned around and was about to walk out of the cave. However, Yi Shun looked at the empty cave in a daze. After a while, his face turned pale, and he almost fainted on the ground. All right, since I took the Flood Dragon Tribe's foundation, I have to express my gratitude. However, just as Yi Shun's body was trembling and blood was about to reach his throat, Ling Xiao suddenly spoke with a serious expression. Could it be? Yi Shun used all his strength and swallowed back that mouthful of blood. Little brother, don't refuse. I'm going to bestow upon you a great fortune. Did I refuse? However, using the Sex Foundation to exchange for a chance to transform into a dragon was not a loss. Thank you, young master. Come, let go of your mind. Don't resist. Soon, you will reach the peak of your life. Why do I have to let go of my mind? Is there anyone who doesn't know? Above Paoang, one could cultivate a soul palace to protect their soul consciousness. If one tried to force their way in, not to mention a god emperor, even if they were at the same realm, it would not be easy. In fact, they might even suffer a backlash if they were slightly careless. Therefore, to let go of your mind meant to open your soul palace, and let me take a look inside. Ling Xiao smiled evilly, and the soul light in his eyes suddenly brightened. Yi Shun only felt a strange wisp of soul power entering his sea of consciousness, condensing into a seal, and then disappearing. This feeling was somewhat strange. At this time, he did not feel any change in his strength or bloodline, but he seemed to be more respectful of this young master in front of him. Yi Shun even had an illusion that this young master only needed a thought to kill him if he wanted to. It seemed that it was useful. This was a complete deterrence that came from his bloodline. Only the closer his bloodline was, the more he could feel this strange suppression. Young master's methods are indeed not something we mortals can understand. Chapter 272. How is it, brother? Do you feel a pressure on your soul? Ling Xiao looked at Yi Shun meaningfully, and the latter immediately bowed. Yes, thank you for your blessing, young master. I feel like I'm full of energy now. Haha, that's what I should do. Let's go. Yilu should be cooked by now, right? Ling Xiao smiled and walked out of the cave. Behind him, Yi Shun was a little confused, but he didn't doubt him in the end. He just swore in his heart that he would be loyal to the young master. Perhaps one day, he would be able to transform into a dragon. In the main hall of the Flood Dragon tribe, Ling Xiao looked at the white flood dragon on the table, and his saliva almost flowed out. Haha, I was afraid that you would get tired of eating it, so I made many flavors. I hope you like it. Yi Shun and the other Flood Dragon tribe's divine kings accompanied him. There was a hint of heartache in their eyes. However, in the world of monsters, it was very normal for different tribes to eat each other. Even within their own tribe, massacres due to bloodline mates also happened from time to time. However, Yi Lu was the lord of the Flood Dragon tribe, but in just one day, he was actually on the table. It was his fault for not knowing what was good for him. He actually dared to provoke the young master of the Heavenly Dragon tribe. Hee, brother, what are you saying? What's wrong? If I like this kind of food, can you kill one for me every day? Ling Xiao shook his head and smiled. His tone was casual, but Yi Shun and the others' expressions changed instantly. Damn, they were careless. If they had known, they wouldn't have made it so exquisite. What if this lord really got addicted to it? Gulp. Ha ha ha. Look at how scared you are. I'm just kidding. How can a flood dragon be as delicious as a true dragon? I often eat true dragons outside. Anyway, they were a bunch of bumpkins who had never walked out of the mystic realm. No matter how much Ling Xiao bragged, they wouldn't be able to see through it. Come, I have a jar of immortal wine here. It's perfect with this flood dragon meat. Let's eat together. Ling Xiao took out a jar of immortal wine, and Yi Ling immediately filled his wine cup. He watched as Ling Xiao picked up a piece of flood dragon meat and put it in his mouth. It seemed to be a piece of spine meat. It's really not bad, really not bad. Brother, Yi Ling, you guys should try it too. Haha, young master, we won't be tasting it. Our flood dragon clan has a rule. We can't serve guests at the same table. Awkwardness appeared in Knight Ginseng's eyes. Although he was cruel by nature and had fought with others when he was young, he had once eaten snakes alive. But as he got older, his mentality changed. Oh, so that's how it is. All right, in that case, don't just look. Drink some, taste my immortal brew. During the meal, Yi Shun and the others had tears in their eyes as they kept sighing. In the end, perhaps the alcohol had gotten to their heads. With tears in their eyes, they ate 2 large bowls of flood dragon meat. If it wasn't for the fact that Ling Xiao ate so quickly, 2 more bowls wouldn't have been enough even if they ate. After the banquet, Ling Xiao was arranged to rest in the Flood Dragon tribe's holy palace. Tomorrow, he planned to take a look at the Lockworm Abyss. After all, what kind of demon in this world was worthy of his fear? The more mysterious a place was, the more shocking its secrets were. Besides, since Feng Ling said that the strongest expert in this place was only a second-stage divine emperor, even if there was a demon in the abyss, it wouldn't be stronger than that. With Wen Ye around, it wouldn't be a big problem. When Ling Xiao pushed open the door and walked into the palace, his eyes suddenly narrowed. At this moment, on the bed in the center of the palace, 2 enchanting figures, one white and one green, were waiting with their heads raised. They had a human body and a snake tail, twisting their waists. When they saw Ling Xiao walking over, the 2 beautiful snake faces immediately bloomed with a faint trace of shyness. Their snake tails retreated and turned into 2 pairs of slender legs. Gulp. Young master, my daughter, Yi Zhen, is a direct descendant of the Flood Dragon clan. Young master, my daughter, Yi Cheng is a member of the Green Snake clan. Under the order of the old ancestor, tonight we will serve young master. The 2 women lowered their eyebrows and smiled faintly. Although they looked nervous, the desire in their eyes didn't seem to be fake. The one in front of them was a real dragon. If they were lucky enough to have sex with him and bear his child, who in the entire Flood Dragon clan would dare to be presumptuous in front of them? This was a chance to reach the heavens in a single bound. Although they were virgins, they didn't feel humiliated at all when they were offered to this young master. On the contrary, they felt honored. The 2 women walked over from the bed. The gauze on their bodies was faintly discernible. As their waists swayed, it added endless temptation to them. Although the faces of the 2 women of the Flood Dragon clan were slender, their figures were really speechless. Their slender waists were white and slender. Their slender legs were swaying gracefully. Hee. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. The emperor's robe on his body instantly turned into starlight and dissipated. He lifted his leg and walked towards the 2 women. Perhaps it was because he had eaten too much flood dragon meat today. Ling Xiao's heart was actually somewhat restless at this moment. That's right. It's all the Yi Ginseng's fault. He insisted on letting me taste the flood dragon meat. This thing is a great tonic. Donkey meat on the ground and dragon meat in the sky. Do you understand? But they pretended to be reserved and didn't eat much. They caused me to eat almost an entire flood dragon. This damn flood dragon meat. Young master, Qing, request for battle. Young master, Zhener, is willing to be the vanguard. Approved. Boom. 3 shadows in the mandarin duck quilt. Pear blossoms and begonias reveal their true form. the sound of waves passing through the small path. The 9 layers of clouds are not enough. The night passed in the blink of an eye. When the sky was bright on the second day, Ling Xiao sat up from the bed. Looking at the 2 women of the Flood Dragon clan who were still sleeping, he shook his head slightly. Leaving 2 bottles of elixirs, he lifted his leg and walked out of the hall. "Young master, you're awake." Outside the hall, Yi Lang bowed. His eyes were dark, as if he hadn't slept for the entire night. "You've been outside the whole time?" "I was afraid that young master had something to summon me. I didn't dare to sleep for the entire night." Yi Lang lowered his head with a terrified expression. "Nonsense. How could I sleep?" The entire Flood Dragon clan probably heard that miserable cry. "Oh, I plan to go to the Lockworm Abyss to take a look today. You don't have to follow me. Just ask Yi Shun to lead the way." Although it wasn't a big problem, having a God Emperor as cannon fodder by his side would always make him feel more at ease. "Master, you can't go to the Lockworm Abyss. Although you're a true dragon, I've made up my mind." Ling Xiao shook his head. He stepped out and instantly appeared outside the hall. At this moment, a group of experts of the Flood Dragon clan were already standing respectfully in the square, waiting for him. "Brother Yi Shun, I heard that there's a very strange place in your Flood Dragon clan. Will you bring me to explore it today?" Ling Xiao walked to Yi Shun's side and said with a smile, "Very strange? There's such a place in my Flood Dragon clan? Wait, young master, are you talking about the Lockworm Abyss?" Yi Shun's old face trembled, and he almost couldn't stand still. There was a rumor in the Flood Dragon clan since ancient times that a great demon was trapped in the Lockworm Abyss. Anyone who entered it, regardless of their cultivation level, would not survive. "Young master, are you preparing to die in my Flood Dragon clan?" "That's right. I heard that the demon is terrifying. Today, I'm going to eliminate this demon for the Flood Dragon clan." Ling Xiao smiled coldly without the slightest fear. "What a joke. I'm the greatest demon in the world. What kind of demon dares not to submit to me? Young master is righteous. But, young master, please reconsider." For a moment, Yi Shun's blood surged. He obviously didn't expect this young master of the Heavenly Dragon clan to be so righteous. However, that demon had never walked out of the demon abyss and had never slaughtered the Flood Dragon clan. Wasn't eliminating the demon like this, seeking death. "Brother Yi, you don't have to say anymore. Everyone has the right to kill such a demon. Lead the way." Ling Xiao smiled indifferently. Divine light shot up into the sky from his body, shocking the entire Flood Dragon clan. Damn! The demeanor of an expert, the action of a righteous person. "Young master, you're really the pride of the Dragon clan." Chapter 273. All right then. Yi Jinseng resisted in his heart, but when the words reached his mouth, he could only obey. He probably didn't know where his courage came from. Just like that, he led Ling Xiao to the center of the Flood Dragon clan's territory, in front of a pitch-black ancient palace. The palace in front of them was obviously different from the surrounding ancient palaces. It emitted a cold and evil aura. There seemed to be Tao patterns flickering on it, containing sealing power. It's indeed a little mysterious. Ling Xiao stopped moving and looked at the 300 tall black hall, and the space between his brows was filled with a wisp of joy. Among the fighting strength he had, 9 Nether, Overlapping Shadow, and Wunya were all in the Divine King realm. The Flood Dragon clan's ancestor was in the Divine Emperor realm. These 4 people were all the experts he could bring out. However, with just these 4 people, it was obviously far from enough to fight against the sacred sect. Although Ling Tian, Yi Qinchan, and the others were extremely talented, they still needed time to grow. Therefore, what Ling Xiao needed to do now was to accumulate as much strength as possible. If there was really a peerless demon in the demon abyss, it would naturally be a threat to the world. However, the enemies of the world were our good friends. No matter how bad it was, he still had 10,000 ways to escape. It was too exaggerated to say that it was dangerous. Young master, this Lockworm Abyss has always been a place where the most evil people of the Flood Dragon clan are punished. You? Ha! Brother, have you ever thought about why you have to send people to the demon abyss to punish your own kind? Perhaps the person who sets such a rule has a problem. Ling Xiao raised his head and looked at the three large words written in the middle of the Black Palace. Lockworm Abyss. However, there was no demonic aura on these three words. Instead, it was filled with the aura of the Great Tao. Was this something that a demon could do? This was clearly done by a human. The person who set the rule. Suddenly, a look of confusion flashed across the Flood Dragon clan's ancestor's face. Who was the one who set this rule? He actually couldn't remember clearly. It shouldn't be. There were only 3 generations of the Flood Dragon clan. Although it was a long time ago, it shouldn't be to the extent that he forgot where he came from. Could it be that there really was a ghost? Yi Lang, from today onwards, the Flood Dragon clan's leader. Young master, please. Yi Jinseng hesitated for a moment, but in the end, he still made arrangements for his funeral in advance. If there was danger in the abyss, he would risk his life to protect the young master. There was a risk of him dying on this trip. Let's go. Ling Xiao smiled indifferently and didn't say anything else. He pushed open the black door and walked in. Buzz. A strange and gloomy aura, accompanied by a blood aura that seemed to have come from ancient times, instantly rushed towards him. Yishun's expression changed, and fear appeared in his eyes. However, in the end, he still walked in front of Ling Xiao. Spiritual light flickered around his body, blocking all of the stench for him. Young master, follow me. The two of them walked forward until they reached the deepest part of the ancient hall. Only then did their footsteps slow down. What appeared in front of Ling Xiao was a pitch-black, demonic abyss. Black fog lingered within, as if a demon had descended. This is my clan's sealing dragon abyss. Normally, clan members who have committed grave sins would be thrown into the abyss here. For hundreds of years, not a single person has been able to walk out. Yishun took a deep breath. Spiritual light dazzled around his body. Clearly, he was quite wary of this place. Interesting. Let's go down and see what great demon is hiding here. Ling Xiao lifted his foot and stepped into the demonic abyss. Behind him, Yishun gritted his teeth. In the end, he didn't dare to hesitate and followed Ling Xiao into the abyss. For some reason, ever since he came to the Serpent Clan, he had a premonition that there were some answers he wanted in this demonic abyss. At the same time, outside the secret realm, the Zhou clan successor, Zhou Yang, looked coldly at a black figure above his head. There was a hint of wariness in his eyes. Who are you? Beside Zhou Yang stood a few ancient clan geniuses. At this moment, there was some surprise on their faces. There was actually someone who dared to block their path in this secret realm. Although the mysterious youth before them wore a mask, the killing intent between his brows was undisguised. It wasn't Ling Xiao, Xia Chun, or the ancient puppet sex young master. However, how many people in the eastern border dared to oppose Zhou Yang? Someone who wants her life. The black-clothed youth smiled faintly. His figure disappeared on the spot. When he reappeared, he was already in the crowd. Damn it. Attack together. Sensing the terrifying aura surging around the figure, the ancient clan genius's expressions changed instantly. As for Zhou Yang, he was indeed the successor of a large clan. Although his expression was somewhat gloomy, there was no trace of panic. Monstrous spirit light gradually surged around him. His palms suddenly pressed out, aiming straight for the black-clothed figure's face veil. He wanted to see who exactly dared to threaten to kill him. Buzz. An ear-piercing, buzzing sound resounded through the sky. However, Zhou Yang's palm ultimately failed to touch the black figure. Lowering his head and looking at the short black dagger in his heart, Zhou Yang's expression gradually froze. How was this possible? How could he be so strong? He didn't even see how he attacked, and the battle was already over. A breeze blew over, lifting a corner of the black figure's veil. Zhou Yang's originally dazed face instantly turned into a terrifying shock. It's you. In the distant sky, more and more geniuses gradually stopped and looked over. However, when they saw the side that was being slaughtered, they immediately turned around and flew into the distance. What a joke. That black-clothed figure had even killed the successor of the Zhou clan. If they continued to stay here, wouldn't they be courting death? However, before they could run far, they suddenly heard a deafening exclamation behind them. Taishin Daozi, it's actually you. Boundless demonic aura began to spread, instantly covering the entire sky. The fleeing geniuses could only hear the incessant screams behind them. Their hearts had already turned cold. Taishin Daozi. The one who killed Zhou Yang was Taishin Daozi. But how could it be? That aura was clearly mixed with endless demonic intent. Could it be many people only felt a chill rising from the soles of their feet to the top of their heads? So this hidden ancient sect was actually founded by the great demon. So all of this was a scam. No wonder. No wonder only a few geniuses from the eastern border who entered this secret realm could ultimately walk out. It turned out that they didn't die in the relic, but were killed by Taishin Daozi. Very suddenly, many geniuses changed their direction and began to flee toward the entrance of the relic. At this time, they only hoped that this trip to the secret realm would end as soon as possible. As for the immortal treasures hidden within, it wasn't worth mentioning. Wasn't it good to be alive? They only hoped that Taishin Daozi didn't see them and let them live. However, this wish seemed too extravagant. Overlapping shadow stood at the top of the sky and looked at the fleeing figures. A beautiful smile suddenly appeared on his originally cold face. The successor of the ancient clan? The geniuses of the major sects? Killing them was really boring. I wonder how the Lord compared to them. Chapter 274. Inside the Suo Jiao Abyss. Ling Xiao and Yi Shun kept falling until they reached a depth of 10,000 feet. Only then did they see a dim light flickering below. Have we arrived? Ling Xiao's expression turned serious. His emperor robe suddenly emitted starlight, illuminating the surrounding area. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly narrowed. The dim light beneath his feet was actually balls of nether fire. The ground not far away was ghastly white. Bones that were hundreds of feet long were scattered on the ground. It was like purgatory. So many flood dragons died. Ling Xiao's figure descended from the sky. Looking at the dried bones on the ground, he was somewhat shocked. As expected of the great demon's hiding place, these flood dragons obviously didn't fall to their deaths. After all, although this abyss was deep, any Powong realm cultivator could easily fly out. How could they really trap these flood dragons? But who could it be? Ling Xiao raised his head and looked into the depths of the demon abyss. At the end of his vision, he saw a tall, ancient stone door quietly standing there. The runes carved on it were as if they were drawn by a demon. They were dark red, like dried bloodstains. It was indescribably evil and strange. That demon is most likely behind this stone door. Ling Xiao suddenly clenched his fist, and Xie instantly appeared in his hand. Then, he turned his head and gave Yishan a look. The latter immediately swallowed his saliva and walked towards the stone door. Buzz! At this moment, the stone door that was originally closed suddenly opened by itself, revealing a long, dark path that seemed to lead to the underworld. Gulp! Yishan's figure trembled. Even though his cultivation was already at the Arch realm, he still felt frightened. It was too strange. Although this demon abyss had existed for thousands of years, it was his first time coming here. Moreover, walking on the ground full of dried bones, the cracking sounds under his feet were like the ravings of a great demon. It made him want to escape from this place. Brother Yi, let's go. They have already opened the door to welcome us. If we retreat now, I'm afraid we will be laughed at. Ling Xiao sneered. Holding the ancient sword, he took the lead and walked towards the door. He wanted to see which demonic creature dared to show off in front of him and bluff. Do you think I, the great mighty heavenly dragon, have an undeserved reputation? Young lord, are we really going in? Yishan took a deep breath, yet Ling Xiao paid no further attention to him. He took a step forward and actually instantly vanished without a trace. Young lord. In the end, Yi Jinseng hesitated for a long time before chasing after Chen Shi. At this moment, Ling Xiao stepped onto the stone path and felt the scenery in front of him change. Heaven and earth began to clear up as figures flashed past his eyes. They were all people he was familiar with. Ling Tianlin and the moon of Xianyuan stood in the hall with their babies in their arms, looking happy. In the next instant, demonic light began to emit from the infant's body. In an instant, the demonic light filled the entire palace hall. The scene flashed, and Ling Xiao saw a face filled with hatred. Ling Tian was tied to a bed by the moon of Xianyuan, and a sharp blade in his hand flashed with a cold light. Following which, Ling Tian's screams of despair and fear could be heard. Ling Xiao, on the other hand, seemed to be an outsider. He coldly watched the scene in front of him flash past like a fleeting shadow. Soon, he stood in front of the Universal Demon Sect's sacred palace again. He looked at the tens of thousands of enemies and extended his hand to bestow him with a spiritual treasure. He publicly announced that he was the young lord of the demon sect and attracted the worship of tens of thousands of people. In the end, Ling Xiao's gaze was fixed on a piece of chaos. It seemed to be the spatial barrier between the four desolates and the Shengzhou continent. The original Ling Xiao's life had probably ended at that time. This feeling was somewhat familiar. Ling Xiao stopped and pondered. Back then, when he was observing the faceless jade wall at the peak of Enlightenment Mountain, didn't he also experience such an illusion? Could it be? In just an instant, lightning flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes, and the ancient sword in his hand slashed out furiously without hesitation. The three daos of thunder, wind, and sword gathered into one sword and directly shattered the void, revealing a piece of light behind it. This is, when the light dissipated, a magnificent ancient palace immediately appeared in front of him. Golden pillars stood tall, and a long dragon was entrenched, exuding supreme majesty. And in the middle of the palace, a slightly thin figure stood with his hands behind his back. At this moment, his back was facing him, and an indescribable aura of vicissitudes lingered around his body. He stood there as if he had been waiting for thousands of years. "Who are you?" "You're here." The black-robed figure slowly turned his head, revealing a pair of dim eyes. "It's you." Ling Xiao's eyes widened, and he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of absurdity. He guessed that there was something wrong with the Taishan Dao sect, and he also guessed that the identity of the path chosen in front of him was definitely not simple. But he really didn't expect that the great demon hidden in the Flood Dragon clan was actually him. The illusion in the stone path just now was actually reincarnation. So, the person who could really see past and present lives in the Taishan Dao sect was not the sect master of Taishan, but this path chosen. But who exactly was he? Why was he here, waiting for him? Did he see the demonic aura on him? You seem very surprised. Taishan Ozi's lips curled into a smile, and his pair of dim eyes calmly looked at Ling Xiao. "Who exactly are you?" Ling Xiao exhaled softly, and his face had already calmed down. No matter who Taishan Ozi was, he would definitely die today. Ridiculous. Ling Xiao actually asked Overlapping Shadow to pretend to be a demon to kill people. It turned out that this path chosen was really a demon. Since he was here, those flood dragons must have been killed by him. Such cruel methods and strange arrangements didn't seem like something a righteous person would do. But in this way, it saved a lot of trouble. As long as he was crushed to death in the demonic abyss today, this murderous plot against the Taishan Dao sect would be truly perfect. Who I am is not important. What's important is, who are you? Taishan Daozi smiled faintly. There was no aura around him, but the sense of desolation was inexplicably terrifying. Who am I? I'm Ling Xiao. Is there anyone in the Shengzhou who doesn't know me? Ling Xiao sneered, and the lightning on his body was dazzling, as if he was the only one who could do it. Arrogant, domineering, and cruel, but to your family and Taoist partner, you're so different. Lord Ling Xiao, which of the two is the real you? Taishan Daozi shook his head and smiled, not at all surprised by Ling Xiao's domineering aura. Is it really me? Suddenly, Ling Xiao felt a trace of inexplicable seriousness. He was too calm. Tai Daozi had been too calm from the beginning to the end. He was so calm that it was as if everything was under his control. Ling Xiao had never felt this when he faced Ling Tianlin or even the Lord Tai Dao. Could it be someone from the sacred sect? A ray of dim light began to bloom on the ancient sword. At this time, Ling Xiao no longer cared who Tai Daozi was. He just wanted to eliminate this threat as soon as possible. Wunny, get ready to fight. He did not know where Tai Daozi had taken the night ginseng. But no matter how high his cultivation was, he probably did not know all the secrets on him. Why don't we both be honest? While Ling Xiao was pondering, Tai Daozi took a step forward. Suddenly, a wave of energy surged out from his body. Demonic Qi. Chapter 275. You are indeed a demon. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed, and the corners of his mouth curled into a cold smile. Be honest? If I show my true form, you will be scared to your knees. I can be honest, but do you deserve it? You are the same, young master. Otherwise, what do you think brought us together? Tai Daozi walked over slowly. His aura grew stronger with every step he took. When he was 10 meters away from Ling Xiao, he had reached the level of a divine lord. At the same time, the dragon scales on his body flickered with black light, giving him a feeling of invincibility. On the other hand, it was impossible to discern his human form any longer. He was like a ferocious beast in human form, and even his originally dim and lusterless eyes had transformed into a wisp of bright gold. However, they were different from human eyes. They were vertical pupils. So, this is why you covered your eyes. Evil dragon war body? So it was you. Who swallowed those dragons? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes, but he did not act rashly. Any demon would submit to the sky demon. However, Tai Daozi was too strange. He seemed to know Yi Futian's identity, but he also seemed not to. Therefore, Ling Xiao was weighing whether to kill him or test him. I swallowed them. I raised them here to heal their wounds. However, I did not expect them to be so useless. They have not produced a single atavistic bloodline in hundreds of years. Tai Daozi smiled disdainfully. His scale-covered face flashed with extreme fierceness. Are you so confident that you can kill me here? Aren't you afraid that I will kill you or expose the secret of Tai Dao's sect if I escape? Ling Xiao sighed softly. Indeed, all villains died because of their carelessness. If Tai Daozi was more cautious and launched a sneak attack, Ling Xiao might not die. However, it was more threatening than exposing his identity. However, for hundreds of years, indeed, Tai Daozi was a reincarnator. In this samsara forbidden zone, no one could descend here. Not godly kings, not even godly emperors. I'm certain that there are only two people in this world, and it will always be the two of us. Tai Daozi did not seem to be in a hurry to make a move at all. Like a cat playing with a mouse, he was enjoying the changes in Ling Xiao's expression. Forbidden zone of samsara? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes and lifted his head to look at the ancient hall before him. As expected, he saw some strange fluctuations. He wondered if the boundary-breaking talisman would be able to break through this realm. Lord Ling Xiao, let me see your true strength. Tai Daozi still sneered and looked at Ling Xiao calmly. Wu Nye, come out. However, Ling Xiao did not completely believe his words. Instead, he communicated with the devil, suppressing ancient pagoda in an attempt to summon the demon monk here. But what surprised him was that he had indeed sensed Wu Nye's aura by his side, but there was no one in front of him. The law of samsara was indeed strange and tyrannical. Here, no one can help you. Come on, show me. I can suppress my realm to the Paong level. As long as you can defeat me, I will tell you everything you want to know. Tai Daozi tilted his head and looked into the distance. The smile on his face grew wider. Suppress your realm to the Paong level? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly, and his figure suddenly disappeared. You said it. Buzz! In just an instant, a terrifying thunder sun appeared above Taishin Ozi's head and fell toward him. The power of a perfected law was naturally unparalleled. Above the thunder sun, thunder patterns flickered and illuminated the sky, as if to suppress all evil in the world. The aura of the purest yang made the forbidden zone of samsara surge with monstrous waves. The thunder light was dazzling, crushing the void and falling with a loud crash. However, Taishin Daozi just shook his head and smiled. A pair of hands covered in dragon scales calmly reached out and grabbed the thunder sun directly. In his hands, a strange power quietly bloomed. It evolved into the mountains and rivers, the sun and the moon, and the black and yellow of heaven and earth. It was as if the entire world was just a toy in his hands. Boom! The power of the two laws collided with a loud crash. Then, Ling Xiao was shocked to see that the thunder sun began to shrink inexplicably. It shrank until it finally turned into a grain of rice and was crushed by Taishin Daozi's hand. This kind of power is useless against me. Is that so? Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly. He also felt a little dignified. Taishin Daozi was considered the strongest opponent that he had encountered so far. Compared to him, Lin Shi, Xia Chun, and the others were really a little immature. Then try this. Ling Xiao shouted softly. Above the ancient sword in his hand, a torrential sky demon chi surged. It seemed to contain extreme sharpness. The sword light in the sky turned into shadows and swept past like the wind. It was indescribably light and ethereal, but it was also incomparably mysterious. Two types of Dao laws. Interesting. Taishin Daozi smiled faintly. He still only reached out with his hand and grabbed the sword light. Crack! Crack! A strange sound of friction instantly rang out. The spiritual light above Taishin Ozi's demon palm shattered, and the laws collapsed. But Ling Xiao's attack still could not break through the defense outside his body. This is the time. Just as Taishin Daozi's eyes were filled with contempt, Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly shone brightly. It directly turned into an illusory palm print in front of Taishin Daozi and smashed down. Great barren heaven imprisoning print. Boom! Endless soul light spread out like a sea and instantly annihilated the entire forbidden zone. Ling Xiao stood in midair and looked coldly at the place where the soul print fell. There was no trace of joy in his eyes. He could feel that Taishin Daozi was not dead. In fact, the aura on his body was even more powerful. Damn it! This evil dragon war body is actually so powerful? Not bad. It's stronger than I thought. However, it's still not enough. The boundless soul light gradually dissipated, revealing a pitch-black figure. At this moment, black bone spikes suddenly extended from Taishin Daozi's body. His originally ferocious appearance became even more terrifying. An extremely evil and sinister aura quietly shrouded the world, causing a trace of fear to arise in the bottom of one's heart. Compared to Miyong, or even Layered Shadow and Wunya, this demon in front of Taishin Daozi was truly evil and terrifying. You can force me to use the second form. In the Paong realm, you are the best, but still not enough. Taishin Daozi shook his head calmly, his eyes full of provocation. Is that so? Who told you that I am in the Paong realm? Ling Xiao's lips suddenly curled into a playful smile. He finally released his divine general aura without reservation. Try and take another strike from me. The immemorial demonic blade appeared out of thin air. Lightning instantly bloomed, and the unparalleled sword shone brightly. Ling Xiao slashed out. The world was silent, and only the sound of the wind could be heard. As for the saber intent, it was like a tidal wave, vast and boundless, without end. The world began to collapse, and the power of the forbidden zone gradually collapsed. In the face of this destructive strike, Taishin Daozi's eyes finally surged with a touch of seriousness. Divine General Realm. 4 types of principles. Is this your true strength? You have indeed hidden it well. Taishin Daozi chuckled. In the next moment, he suddenly clenched his fist. In the direction behind him, a pitch-black demonic figure suddenly appeared. It had a dragon head and a human body, holding a giant halberd. In an instant, the world was overshadowed, and all sound was silent. Chapter 276. This is looking at the blurry demonic shadow below him. Ling Zhao's eyes suddenly narrowed. Why was this demonic shadow similar to his sky demon real body? However, his demonic body was slightly illusory, and his face could not be seen clearly. However, the one behind Taishiendozi clearly had a dragon head, a human body, and a dragon tail. At this time, the demonic palm that stretched out was covered with a layer of extremely realistic demonic scales, dark and deep, containing endless demonic power. At this time, the demonic shadow stretched out its palm, which seemed to contain thousands of laws. It directly penetrated the void and grasped the demonic blade in its hand. Buzz! The space collapsed instantly, and even the forbidden zone of reincarnation shattered at this moment. However, before Yi Chun and Wunny could react, a strange light suddenly flashed in the demonic shadow's golden eyes, and everything in front of them returned to how it was before. It was as if nothing had happened. How could? Ling Xiao looked at the demonic blade in his hand and the terrifying demonic shadow standing in the distance with a shocked expression. Was that the power, just now, the power of reincarnation? The primordial demonic blade, really a very familiar feeling. However, this blade is seriously damaged and has lost all its power now. Taishin Daozi sighed softly and looked up at Ling Xiao again. So, at this time, you're still not willing to show your real trump card? Phew! The spiritual light around Ling Xiao suddenly dissipated, and he stood quietly in the air. Who are you? Yes, after 1,000 years of reincarnation, you have already forgotten who I am, but I have been waiting for your return. Come, fight with me. Use your real appearance. Demonic qi suddenly thickened around Taishin Daozi, and a faint demonic roar sounded from the Nine Serenities, revealing a kind of desolation that had experienced thousands of years. He stood there, as if there were billions of gods and demons following behind him. Those eyes that seemed to be able to see through the Tao of heaven and earth were filled with fighting spirit, hatred, and faintly, some expectations. 1,000 years of reincarnation? Ling Zhao's eyes gradually flashed with a dark demonic light. At this time, he finally understood that Taishin Daozi in front of him did not want to kill him at all, but wanted to confirm something with him. What could it be? Ling Xiao had no way of knowing, but it seemed that he had no other choice. Boom! A wisp of demonic light was like the first darkness in the world at the beginning of the primordial chaos. The light that had filled the entire forbidden zone disappeared without a trace. Heaven and earth fell silent. The ancient Sanskrit began to chant, sacred, dignified, and without a trace of devilish intent. Vaguely, an illusory figure that seemed to have experienced the passage of time silently stood behind Ling Xiao. His face was a little blurry, and the two horns on his head seemed ancient and boundless. His eyes were dark and deep, as if he was looking down on all living things. He was just standing there, but he gave people a feeling that he was above heaven and earth. Currently, Ling Zhao's sky demon true body was only at the second transition, revealing his true form, innate divine strength. The 9 transformations of the heavenly demon, each transformation represented a different form. Each form seemed to represent a different type of talent. Probably only those who had seen the sky demon before would know what its final form was. Boundless demonic aura suddenly surged, and the demonic figure outside, Taishidaozi's body, suddenly showed signs of collapsing. Even that pair of strange golden eyes revealed an instinctive reverence. Is this what you want to see? Tell me, who are you? Ling Xiao stood in the air, his gaze calm as he looked down. At this moment, he was the only god in this place. There are demons in the world, and I am the supreme. Immortals and gods bow, and all living things submit to me. Finally, you're back. A bright smile suddenly bloomed on Tai Daozi's face. However, in the next moment, his figure suddenly rose into the air and directly turned into a 100-foot-long evil dragon, rushing toward Ling Xiao angrily. The sinister demonic aura covered the void. The demonic chant was deafening, and it seemed to contain an indescribable grief and anger. However, Ling Xiao no longer had a trace of fear. He just calmly stretched out his palm and gently pressed down. Boom! It was as if the great path had fallen from the sky, as if a meteorite had fallen to the earth. It was as if the sky had collapsed, as if the Milky Way had flowed backward. Under this palm, it was the beginning of the end of the world. Tai Daozi was powerless to struggle. He looked up at the demonic palm that was like a sky canopy. Not only was there no despair in his eyes, but there was also a hint of pride. Sky Demon Palace, evil dragon general of the 9 generals, Liang Yi, respectfully welcomes the return of my master. Boom! The demonic aura in the sky demon suddenly stagnated. The demonic figure around Liang Yi had already dissipated. His figure directly knelt on the ground and bowed deeply to Ling Xiao. Yes, this was the feeling. The suppression from the divine soul and bloodline. Sky Demon Palace? Evil Dragon General? Liang Yi? Ling Xiao's expression froze, and he looked at Taishan Ozi, who had not gotten up for a long time, with some confusion. What is going on? How do you know who I am? My master, there are some things that I can't tell you now, but there is a relic in this secret realm that you left behind. Perhaps, when you get it, you will remember some things. Liang Yi raised his head and looked at the young man in front of him with reverence. And from the system's notification, Ling Xiao could feel his submission. At this point, he also understood why Taishan Daozi did not have the slightest bit of luck, even though he had the Tao of reincarnation. It turned out that he was also a villain. Of the 9 generals of the Sky Demon, where were the remaining 8 generals? Could it be that they were suppressed in the demon subduing tower? Relic? What relic? Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. This was the real secret of Taishan Dao sect. On the surface, it was to protect the secret realm, but in reality, it was to protect the inheritance of the Sky Demon in this secret realm. In that case, the Taishan Dao sect held the 1,000 sects martial arts competition every 60 years to find the reincarnation of the Sky Demon. My master, you will know when you go up. Liang Yi smiled but did not say anything. However, there was a trace of confusion between his brows. There was a slight difference between the reincarnation of the Sky Demon and the true body of the Sky Demon. Rather than calling that inheritance a fortune, it would be better to call it a trial. After all, hundreds of years ago, there was also a descendant of the Sky Demon in the Shengzhou land. However, in the end, he was not the one Liang Yi was waiting for. As for whether Ling Xiao was, how did you know that I would appear in the eastern border? Ling Xiao had many questions in his heart that he wanted answers to. However, he also guessed that the relic was not just a creation for him. 1,000 years ago, I burned my cultivation and swore on the reincarnation oath just to know where my master was. Liang Yi stood there with a tranquil expression, and he seemed as if he was talking about an extremely ordinary matter. However, Ling Xiao's expression suddenly became extremely solemn. He burned his cultivation and swore on the reincarnation oath. Liang Yi's loyalty was praiseworthy. Of course, the most tragic thing was that he was waiting for him. Otherwise, you can't cultivate now? No, I can only live for 100 years. After that, I will be reincarnated again and wait for my master's return. Liang Yi's eyes were still dim, but the words that came out of his mouth made Ling Xiao's heart tremble. 1,000 years had passed, and 100 years of reincarnation. It was an endless cycle of waiting. He lived to wait for his master's return. Inexplicably, a complicated look flashed in Ling Xiao's eyes. Originally, he thought that there were only eternal benefits in this world. All living things were just pawns and tools in his hands. However, today, looking at the figure in front of him, he seemed to have some thoughts. In the eyes of the world, Liang Yi a dignified evil dragon general, was a great demon who brought chaos to the world. However, who said that demons were cruel, heartless, and cunning? Demons also had stubbornness and perseverance. Now, his stubbornness had finally paid off. He was almost moved by himself. Ling Zhao's lips suddenly curled into a cold smile. If Liang Yi was not a little powerful, the reincarnation oath should be very good, right? Reincarnation oath once every 100 years. Then you can use your remaining enthusiasm to your heart's content. Perhaps in this life, you will not have to repeat such a boring reincarnation oath. I'm not heartless, but you're not worthy. An old subordinate of the Sky Demon? At the crucial moment, you can also be my substitute and die for me. Beep. Congratulations to the host for thinking like a villain. You are rewarded with 3,000 villain points. Chapter 277. Does Sect Master Taishian know your identity? Ling Zhao's expression had already calmed down. This was the question he was most concerned about. After all, with that person's cultivation, he must have had something to rely on to survive in this world and not be killed by the saint. In this world, the only thing that could intimidate others was strength. Obviously, even though everyone knew that Sect Master Taishuan's cultivation was unfathomable, they still underestimated him. If he did not know Liang Yi's identity, things would become even more troublesome and complicated. He is my servant and the only one who followed me after the battle of the gods and demons. Back then, he destroyed his own cultivation and stepped out of the territory to follow me. It has been 1,000 years since then. Liang Yi smiled calmly, but Ling Zhao's eyes suddenly flashed with surprise. So, he was someone from 1,000 years ago. No wonder the saint did not dare to touch him easily. However, in this lower world, with the suppression of the heavenly path, his cultivation realm was probably not as strong as it was in the past. What a loyal servant. It seemed that the sacred palace of the demonic path from 1,000 years ago really had some awe-inspiring charm. As far as I know, there seemed to be a forbidden body in Shengzhou land, and he was later killed by the saint. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at Liang Yi meaningfully. Yes, I have seen that person before. His aura is indeed no different from Master's, but he does not have the forbidden body that people say. Liang Yi shook his head, and a trace of fierceness suddenly flashed in his dim eyes. Moreover, I do not know whether he is dead or not. To be precise, he should be missing. Missing? Ling Zhao's eyes narrowed slightly. To be able to escape from the saint and hide for 300 years? It was impossible and unrealistic. You said that you were one of the 9 generals of the Sky Demon Palace. Where are the other 8 generals? Looking at Liang Yi's attitude, it was obvious that the 9 generals of the Sky Demon Palace were the most loyal generals of the Sky Demon. If one of them was still alive, he would probably be in existence above Shengzhou. So, why would he be afraid of the saint? In that battle, the 4 venerables of the Sky Demon Palace, the 5 emperors, the 7 kings, and the 9 generals, were either killed or sealed. I don't know how many of them are still alive and how many of them have reincarnated. Liang Yi sighed, his eyes revealing the vicissitudes of life. With just one sentence, Ling Xiao seemed to see a demonic sect that stood proudly at the top of the 9 heavens appear before his eyes. For venerables, 5 emperors, 7 kings, 9 generals. Since it was an ancient demonic sect, the so-called Emperor General could not possibly be a divine rank expert of the Shengzhou continent. It turned out that this world was actually so vast, but no matter how vast it was meaningless to the current Ling Xiao. As long as the saint's sect was not destroyed, it would be difficult for him to leave this world. Where is the relic you mentioned? In the end, Ling Xiao did not ask any more questions. Although Liang Yi's loyalty could be verified by the system, it was obvious that he was hiding something in his heart. Perhaps he would only tell him all the secrets about the Sky Demon after obtaining the inheritance in the relic. This was his reservation, and also Ling Zhao's concern. The evil dragon general was waiting for him, but also not him. As for what kind of danger the relic contained, Ling Xiao did not know, but he had to go. After all, if he could obtain the loyalty of the Sky Demon Palace's generals, his future path would be much better. Master will know very soon. Liang Yi bowed again. With a wave of his hand, the forbidden zone above his head instantly disappeared. The Flood Dragon ancestor and Wu Nie's figures almost instantly flew over and stood behind Ling Xiao. Benefactor, do you want to kill him? Wu Nie's body was surrounded by a dazzling golden light. Wherever he went, a Buddha appeared in the air, exuding boundless holiness. Although at this moment, he could feel that Liang Yi had an aura that made him feel terrified. But, since he was from this world, it should be easy to kill him. No need. Grandmaster, please wait for a moment. Liang Yi, I pretended to be you and killed a few ancient race prodigies. Ling Xiao suddenly smiled awkwardly. Damn, after scheming for so long, he did not expect that he would be the one to scheme against. Double Shadow had been out for a day. Most of the famous prodigies and saintesses in the eastern border had probably been killed, right? Liang, he was obviously stunned. Then, a playful smile appeared on his face. Ling Xiao's aura was indeed that of the Sky Demon. But he felt that the master in front of him was no longer the same as he was 1,000 years ago. 1,000 years ago, the Sky Demon fought 4 ancient gods alone and did not retreat. It could be seen that he was domineering and powerful. But now, why did he feel that this reincarnated body was a little evil? Forget it. When one was an ant, it was not necessarily a bad thing to know how to survive. Otherwise, how could the demonic palace be destroyed in a single night? Fighting alone, fighting to the death. No regrets, but there were regrets. 1,000 years later, could the master lead the Sky Demon's former subordinates to the top of the 9 heavens again? Enter the Sky Demon Palace and become my Sky Demon General. I will bestow upon you a title that will shock the heavens. It's okay. Then just kill them all. There are a few people you can't kill. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed slightly, while Liang Yi only nodded, and his figure instantly disappeared. The Sky Demon Palace. Interesting. I wonder how many great demons are still alive in this world. Ling Xiao pondered for a long time and finally turned to look at Yi Shun and Wu Nie. Master, please go back. Benefactor, you have already fulfilled 2 of the 3 wishes. There is still one last wish. Benefactor, please be careful. Wu Nie put his palms together and chanted a Buddhist name. You have already fulfilled 2 wishes? Ling Xiao narrowed his eyes. What 2 wishes? Coming is a wish. Leaving is a wish. Wu Nie was neither servile nor overbearing. His expression was indifferent. What the F***CK? However, at this time, Ling Xiao looked at him with some mockery. This bald donkey appeared to be honest on the surface. Who would have thought that he would be so treacherous? Very well. Since that's the case, I know what my 3rd wish is. Are you kidding me? In terms of treachery, I am not targeting anyone. Everyone here is my younger brother. Oh, Benefactor, please speak. 3rd wish? In that case, I will fulfill 3 more wishes. Ling Xiao sneered. As for Wu Nie, his expression instantly turned sluggish. He had only agreed to fulfill Ling Xiao's 3 wishes. However, he did not specify which 3 wishes they were. He did not expect this young man to be so shameless. Wouldn't it mean that he had no chance of escaping? Let's go. Ling Xiao grinned. He did not pay any attention to the dazed, demonic monk. Instead, he turned around and walked away. Behind him, Yi Shun glanced at Wu Nie with fear. Then, he hurriedly chased after Ling Xiao. At this moment, Ling Xiao roughly understood who he saw on the faceless jade wall. He also understood the reason why the Taishan sect lived in seclusion and the reason for the existence of this arcane realm. However, although his physical body was the reincarnation of the Sky Demon, his soul was already different. That was why the Sky Demon from 1,000 years ago sensed it. However, he did not know if the relic left behind by the Sky Demon could see the difference in his soul. If it could, given Liang Yi's loyalty, he would definitely attack him. After all, the disappearance of the forbidden physique from 300 years ago was somewhat strange. My lord, that person just now was the Tai Daozi? Why is he here? Yi Shun stood nervously beside Ling Xiao. Just now, he was blocked in the forbidden zone of reincarnation and did not know what had happened inside. However, very suddenly, he felt that the Flood Dragon clan was in danger. Yes, it's the Tai Daozi. He came to help me kill the demon. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and glanced at Yi Jinseng meaningfully. The pitiful Flood Dragon clan had existed for 1,000 years. They thought that they were strong and domineering. However, they did not know that they were just food for others to heal. However, how many pitiful people like them were there in this world? In the chess game of heaven and earth, all living beings were chess pieces. Ling Xiao understood that he might be a chess piece left behind by some people. If he wanted to break out of this game, he could only become stronger at all costs. One day, I will stand high above the 9 heavens. One word from me can decide the life and death of the samsara. If I say that the heavens are the earth and the earth is the sea, who dares to refute me? Chapter 278. Ling Xiao still had a lot of questions in his heart, but if he wanted to unravel the mystery, he still needed strength. Since the thing in the ruins was related to the sky demon, it must be a great fortune for him. On the other hand, when he and Yishun returned to the WRM clan, they saw that countless figures were standing outside the ancient hall, and all of them had a wisp of a solemn expression on their faces. As the only god emperor of the Flood Dragon tribe, once Yishun died, the entire tribe would be in endless trouble. Young master, ancestor. Yilang's eyes narrowed. When he saw the 2 figures walking out of the palace, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't really care about the lives of the 2 of them. It was just that Ling Xiao had planted a soul imprint on him. Once Ling Xiao died, he would die on the spot. Damn! Pay attention to what strange phenomena have appeared in the mystic realm recently. Ling Xiao's gaze swept across the crowd. Should I make a Flood Dragon hot pot today? As if sensing the sinister look in his eyes, the group of Flood Dragon tribe experts trembled and almost turned to flee. Yes, in the end, Ling Xiao didn't have any more ideas about the Flood Dragon tribe. After all, they were Liang Yi's food. If he ate all the experts who could give birth to the atavistic bloodline, after 1,000 years of reincarnation, only waiting for the return of the master, this general was loyal enough. If he obtained it, it would be of great use. If not, he would be killed. When Ling Xiao returned to the Flood Dragon tribe's sacred palace, the 2 young women from the Flood Dragon tribe had already disappeared. But before Ling Xiao could rest, 2 delicate female voices came from outside the palace. Young master, the ancestor sent us to serve you. Ling Xiao's eyes narrowed. There was something wrong with the Flood Dragon tribe's ancestor. It was obvious that he wanted him to die in the Flood Dragon tribe. Tell Yishan that I'm going to cultivate in seclusion. No one is to disturb me. Yes, only when the sound of footsteps outside the hall faded away did Ling Xiao disappear in a flash. On the 3rd floor of the Devil's Subduing Ancient Tower, Ling Xiao had already summoned Layered Shadow. At this moment, he was looking at him with a puzzled expression. Master, have you heard of the Sky Demon Palace? The 3 great devils narrowed their eyes and nodded slowly. Oh, tell me about it. Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. Could it be that the great demon from the Sky Demon Palace was really being suppressed in this demon pagoda? I've only heard that the Demon Hall is one of the most powerful forces in the 9 heavens void divine world. There are many experts there, and their master is the #1 demon in the ancient immemorial era. In the ancient times, he once suppressed the immortal Tao and achieved the supreme great Tao. No one dared to mention his real name. Wu Nye looked deeply at Ling Xiao. Don't you know your own forces? Why are you asking us instead? That's right. We're just small demons from the lower realm. We're not even worth mentioning in front of these big shots from the demonic sect. However, my lord, did you lose your memories during your reincarnation? A trace of doubt flashed across Folded Shadow's beautiful eyes. As the name suggested, The Sky Demon Palace was created by the Sky Demon. When they were at their peak, immortals and gods bowed their heads. However, thousands of years ago, they suddenly disappeared in the 6 paths of reincarnation. Therefore, when Ling Xiao revealed the true form of the Sky Demon, they were surprised and hesitant. Oh, it does sound a bit awesome. The 9 heavens void divine world? Is it the world above the Shengzhou continent? As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, he saw the 3 demon monks looking at him in a daze. It's not? We don't know. However, the 9 heavens void divine world is the peak of the 9 heavens. Not to mention, god emperors and god kings, even saints would find it difficult to ascend. Folded Shadow shook her head and chuckled. Her eyes were filled with yearning. Suddenly, she felt that perhaps choosing to follow Ling Xiao back then was not a bad thing. At the very least, she had the possibility of reaching the peak of the world. However, that's still a bit far from me. Ling Xiao nodded. Meeting Liang Yi today had broadened his horizons. No matter how glorious the Sky Demon Palace was in the past, it had been destroyed in the long river of history. He was the reincarnation of the Sky Demon, but he was also not. He would rebuild the Sky Demon Palace, but it would be the Sky Demon Palace that belonged to him. Master, these are the Chinquin bags of the young masters of the ancient sections. Folding Shadow took out a few Chinquin bags. There were a total of 34 of them. Damn! Ling Xiao face-bombed. His face was a bit pale. After tricking them for so long, he ended up tricking his own people. If someone luckily escaped and told the world that Taishin Daozi was a demon, Ling Xiao would cry to death. Evil Dragon General, I have let you down. Master, what's wrong? No, nothing. Who did you kill? Did anyone see it? Don't worry, Master. I killed all the young masters of the ancient sects and clans. I deliberately left a few alive. Ling Xiao's feet shook, and he almost fell to the ground. Well done. You did well. Go and rest. I'm going to cultivate. Folding Shadow stared blankly at the figure that silently walked to the side. She didn't know why, but at this moment, she felt that Master was unhappy. It shouldn't be. Does Master blame me for not killing enough? But I haven't been idle at all this time. System. Ling Xiao sat cross-legged on the side. His face had already calmed down. In the past few days, what he had done in Enlightenment Mountain and the Secret Realm had accumulated as many as 50,000 villain points. It was time for him to upgrade his realm. After all, he couldn't afford to be careless in the relics left by the Sky Demon. In the end, everything in this world, whether it was gain or loss, couldn't escape from strength. Million demonic arts at a point. Buzz! An ear-piercing, buzzing sound instantly rang out. Countless thunderclouds instantly surged over the demon suppression tower, covering the sky and the sun. Ling Xiao's figure instantly disappeared into the lightning that filled the sky. On the barren mountain outside the land of the last repose, Nian Xingyun stood naked at the top of the mountain, looking down at a cave that was sprinkled with golden light. There, she faintly felt a strange fluctuation spreading over. She thought that a strange treasure must have appeared. But just as she raised her foot and was about to land on the golden light, she saw a blue-robed figure flash over and step into the cave before her. Xiachun. Nian Qingyun frowned slightly, but there was no panic in her eyes. Although Yuan Yu Saint was extremely famous, he was only in the middle of the Pong stage. There was no need to be afraid of him. Thinking of this, Nian Qingyun deliberately slowed down her footsteps. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a touch of extremely faint evil. At the same time, in another dense forest, Ling Tian sat on the ground with a gloomy face. Behind him, Yi Sun Er's eyes were red. The power of Taoist principles surged around her body as she treated a bone-revealing injury on the young man's back. Junior brother, why don't we retreat? Shengguan Qinghe is obviously targeting us. We were lucky to escape this time, but if we meet him again... Yi Sun wanted to say something but stopped. There seemed to be a touch of sadness between her eyebrows. In this secret territory, there were geniuses dying every day. Even if Shengguan Qinghe killed them here, no one would know about it. Ling Tian was very powerful. He had even killed an ancient clan genius in the middle of the Paong stage with one sword. But Shangguan Qinghe had more than 10 people following him. If it were not for the spiritual treasures on them, the two of them would have died this time. I'm fine, senior sister. Don't worry. With me here, no one can hurt you. Ling Tian's eyes flashed with a touch of coldness. After today's battle, his understanding of Taoist principles had improved again. Moreover, he had not used the celestial art. If the young master of the primordial chaos sect still did not know what was good for him, he did not mind, letting him have a taste of the power of the 9 heaven-destroying swords. Chapter 279. A battle was about to break out in the mystic realm, while the ancient ruins were appearing one after another. A black light suddenly shot into the sky from the WYRM clan's ancestral land. Immediately after, a boundless aura spread out and enveloped the entire area. Oh, what a terrifying aura! Is the young master breaking through? Yishun and the others stood outside the hall and stared at the dark sky in shock. Although there were no tribulation clouds descending, the faint lightning intent coming from the hall was enough to frighten them. Boom! Finally, the door opened, and a young man in white slowly walked in. Yishun and the others hurriedly bowed. Even though they couldn't sense a trace of Ling Zhao's aura, the intimidating aura from his spirit still terrified them. Is there any news? Ling Zhao smiled faintly. A third-grade divine general. In the entire Shenzhou, there was probably no one who could reach this level at his age. Young master, a black light suddenly filled the sky above the Xing clan's Sacred Punishment Mountain 2 days ago. I'm afraid a supreme treasure has appeared. Yishun reported softly. Ling Zhao's expression instantly darkened. 2 days ago? Why did you only report it now? F***CK. 2 days. Even if there was a creation inheritance in the ruins, it would have been snatched away by those children of destiny. Ling Zhao wished he could stew Yishun and make a feast for all the WYRMS. Young master, didn't you say no one is allowed to disturb you? You F***er. Ling Zhao gritted his teeth and finally shouted coldly, follow me to the Xing clan. Since it was an ancient clan in the mystic realm, it would be difficult for Ling Zhao to barge in alone. However, now that he had a group of free fighters, it would be a waste not to use them. Young master, the old immortal has set the rules. Our clans are not allowed to interfere with the trial. If we go in so rashly, Yishun's expression was troubled as he stood up straight. Behind him, the group of WIRM experts also looked hesitant. Ling Zhao coldly glanced at Yishun. The latter felt his heart tremble violently and almost knelt on the ground. We swear to follow the young master till death. The group of people headed toward the Xing clan's Saint Mountain. At the same time, countless ancient ruins in the mystery realm began to shine with celestial light. The originally tranquil heavens and the earth were suddenly filled with foul winds while a rain of blood sprinkled down, and it was like a scene of a punitive expedition. Nian Qingyun, how dare you steal my creation? In that barren mountain, 2 streams of flowing light flashed and disappeared, especially the one behind. Blood chi was surging all over his body. His face was ferocious, and the pressure of the middle stage of Paong was surging, shocking the sky. It was Yuan Yu holy son, Xiachen. However, at this moment, there seemed to be bloodstains on Xiachen's body. His aura was also slightly weak. It was obvious that he had gone through a great battle. Nian Qingyun was holding a 7-colored spirit flower a few meters in front of him, and there was a faint smile on her beautiful face. At this moment, she seemed to have experienced a kind of happiness that she had never felt before. It was a kind of joy of standing behind others and enjoying the fruits of others' labor. No wonder that bastard Ling Zhao always likes to take advantage of others. It really saves me a lot of effort. Nian Qingyun turned to look at Xiachen. Without hesitation, she used the ethereal law of Tao, and her beautiful figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Nian Qingyun, You'd better not fall into my hands. Xiao Chun gritted his teeth. Damn woman. He had fought hard for 2 days and killed several eastern border prodigies before he reached the depths of the cave abode. He did not expect that there would be a divine, general demonic beast guarding the spirit flower. Just as Xia Chun was using all his means to fight the demonic beast, Nian Qingyun suddenly descended. She unleashed her ethereal Tao laws and easily plucked the 7-colored spiritual flower. That flower was called the 7-colored spirit flower, and it was a wonderful item that nourished the divine soul. Back then, Xia Chen's remnant soul hid in the soul-sucking pearl and slept for 1,000 years. Although he had been reborn, the injury to his divine soul had not healed. This flower originally belonged to him, but he did not expect it. Damn it, let's see where you can run to. On the other side, Ling Xiao led a group of powerful warriors from the Flood Dragon tribe out of the tribe's territory. Just as he was about to head toward the Xing tribe, he suddenly stopped in his tracks. Young master, what's wrong? Yishin's expression turned serious, and his arch aura instantly spread out. Oh, I want to relieve myself. Wait here. No matter what you hear later, don't come over. Ling Xiao looked up and vaguely looked into the distance. He took a step forward and instantly descended the mountain. At that moment, he could feel that in the void, an extremely light soul consciousness was firmly locked onto him. However, no matter how light that soul consciousness was, how could it escape the system's detection? Especially when it was a woman of destiny with a sweet smell. Movement? Don't come over? Could it be that there's a female demon in the forest? Yishan's eyes narrowed slightly. He revealed a look of understanding and nodded with a smile. Is she here? Ling Xiao stood under the ancient tree, took off his clothes, and went down. He intended to give that black-clad girl a chance. Otherwise, she would not have dared to appear so rashly. However, this girl is indeed cautious. She has probably been following me for the past few days, waiting for an opportunity. She is smarter than her simple-minded brother. Shoo. Ling Xiao whistled and counted a grasshopper. The smile in his eyes deepened. Buzz. At that moment, a strange buzzing sound suddenly came from the void above his head. Immediately, a black spear pierced through the air and instantly reached Ling Xiao's back. Huh? Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. He did not even have time to lift the emperor's robe. Lightning instantly radiated from his palm. He directly turned around and grabbed that black spear. Above his head, Bai Ling's pretty face was stunned. She looked at the young man in front of her with his lower body exposed. In fact, the moment her gaze landed on him, she clearly saw that the young man seemed to have purposely shuddered. You scared me to death. It's you again. Bai Ling was embarrassed. The killing intent in her eyes grew stronger. The black spear in her hand suddenly bloomed with a monstrous bloody light. A wisp of extremely cold, bloody aura surged out, like a ferocious blood dragon, letting out a deafening roar. But, no matter how she struggled, she was unable to snatch the spear from Ling Xiao's hands. Even as she continued to exert force, the young man's body swayed more and more, along with Bai Ling's face flushed red. In the end, she threw down the black spear and disappeared in front of Ling Xiao. F***CK. I'm so scared that I don't even want to pee anymore. Ling Xiao snorted coldly. Only then did he pull up his pants unhurriedly. He raised his head and looked at the sky. At this moment, the sound of wind breaking came from all directions at the same time. Strands of bloody spiritual light were like demonic snakes. They meandered through the air and turned into chains, wrapping around his body. What a terrifying, strange attack. I can't move. Only today did I know that I'm not invincible. Ling Xiao's face was flustered. Lightning surged around his body, but in the end, he was powerless to struggle and was bound to the ground by the bloody chains. However, at this moment, his eyes were calm, as if there was a faint trace of evil in them. Stinky sister, why don't you come out and talk? I have a story and wine. Take a good look. Am I the kind of brother you like? Let's see where you can escape to this time. Bai Ling's figure appeared in front of Ling Xiao. Her fair and cute face carried a faint trace of pride. Chapter 280. Who are you? Why are you attacking me again and again? Ling Xiao furrowed his brows and shouted softly. Humph. Ling Xiao, aren't you very arrogant? Why are you afraid? Bai Ling crossed her arms in front of her chest and sneered in front of Ling Xiao. There was a childish smugness on his slightly immature little face. At this time, she had probably forgotten how Ling Xiao had broken her spear with 2 fingers. All these years, Bai Ling had been honing her cultivation in the Divine Temple. Although she had killed many people, she had never gone out alone like this. Moreover, the people she had killed were all evil people according to her master. They either bullied the good and took advantage of women or slaughtered the common people. In short, they all deserved to be killed. At first, she resisted, but later she understood that if evil people were not killed, they would bring disaster to the world. She killed people, but she was also saving people. This time, if she had not sneaked out when her master was not paying attention, she would not have known that her brother had offended the successor of the Ling people. But how could a person who had never truly experienced the dangers of the world know the horror of people's hearts? Afraid? I, Ling Xiao, have always been open and above board. I have never done anything evil. Why do you try to assassinate me again and again? Ling Xiao straightened his neck, looking righteous and awe-inspiring. Open and above board? You stole someone else's sweetheart and humiliated him. Is this considered open and above board? Bai Ling looked at Ling Xiao angrily and raised her hand to pick up the black spear that had fallen to the ground. No matter what you say, you are dead today. Stole someone else's sweetheart? Humiliated someone else? I don't understand. I, Ling Xiao, have a good character in the eastern border. When have I ever done such evil things? Could it be that you have mistaken me for someone else? Ling Xiao's voice was full of emotion and agitation. If someone was not familiar with him, they would really think that he had been greatly wronged. Mistaken me for someone else? Humph. Is Nian Qingyan your fiancée? But I heard that she had a sweetheart before? Bai Ling sneered. The black spear in her hand was already covered in blood. Nian Qingyan? So you were talking about Brother Lin Shi. However, just as Bai Ling was about to stab the black spear in her hand into Ling Xiao's chest, Bai Ling's expression changed when she heard him call her brother. What is your name? Lin Shi. So it's because of this. Miss, you may not know this, but Lin Shi and I are brothers who have gone through life and death together. Back then, in Ling people, it was also the 2 of us who acted out a play together. Ling Xiao shook his head and sighed, looking sad. Acting? You mean Lin Shi deliberately sent his sweetheart into your arms? Ling Xiao, do you think I'm a 12-year-old kid? Bai Ling clenched her teeth and shouted angrily with a ferocious look on her face. Sai, it's a long story. However, why do you care so much about my brother Lin Shi? Could it be? I don't need you to care. It's a long story, so don't say it. Bai Ling obviously did not believe Ling Xiao's words. She suddenly stabbed the black spear and aimed it at Ling Xiao's heart. Brother Lin, she is dead. What? Bai Ling's face instantly paled, and there was a strong sense of fear between her brows. What did you say? My brother, what happened? Your brother? It's really you. You are my sister. Ling Xiao's eyes were filled with excitement. If it weren't for the fact that his body was tied up, he would have rushed up and hugged Bai Ling. Who is your sister? Tell me, what happened to my brother? Bai Ling's beautiful eyes were red, and she pointed the black spear in her hand at Ling Xiao's neck. Sai, Brother Lin Shi, and I met on an ancient battlefield. We went through thick and thin together. We regretted not having met earlier. After we parted, we missed each other. We went through life and death together. We fell in love. Get to the point. Bai Ling was about to go crazy. She originally thought that her master was the most naggy person in the world. However, now that she saw this descendant of the Ling people, she realized that she was wrong. He told me that when the Lin family was destroyed, he fell off a cliff and accidentally met a remnant soul that helped him cultivate. Otherwise, how do you think he survived? Ling Xiao sighed, as if he was recalling a period of the past that was carved into his bones. Could it be that my brother was Sai? At first, the two of them were quite harmonious. They cultivated together, and that remnant soul even taught your brother many cultivation methods. However, when his cultivation recovered, your brother gradually realized that his divine sense seemed to be out of control. What? Until one day, he suddenly came to me and told me this secret, but it was already too late. Of course, I wanted to help him get rid of that remnant soul, but your brother said that the remnant soul was at the venerable realm when it was alive. Not only was he unable to break free, but no one in the entire Shenzhou was a match for it. I could only temporarily trap it in an ancient divine ring. But your brother couldn't let it go. He couldn't let go of Nian Qingyun and you. He was also afraid that Nian Qingyun wouldn't agree. By the way, your brother repeatedly told me that I must find you and love you as my own sister. Linger, is that you? Ling Zhao's eyes were red, and he was about to cry. He had indeed heard Lin Shi mention Ling Er's name, but he didn't know her full name. However, when Bai Ling heard him call her Ling Er, her heart trembled, and she almost cried out. Everyone in the sacred hall knew that she was called Qianma. No one knew her real name. Only brother Lin Shi and her father would call her Ling, so he deliberately pretended to deceive Nian Qingyun while he was still conscious. But in fact, he just wanted to entrust her to you. When Ling Xiao called her Ling Bai Ling was actually a little shaken. In particular, the details that Ling Xiao described were so realistic, and the tears on his face didn't seem to be fake. It turned out that he was her brother's brother, a good brother worthy of entrusting his wife's sister. Otherwise, why would her brother mention her name to him? Even if the Ling people were powerful, even her master couldn't find any clues about the destruction of the Lin clan. Ling people were powerful, but how could they compare to the Temple of Blood Soul? Beep! The destiny of the girl is shaken. Congratulations to the host for gaining 300 luck points and 3,000 villain points. Not only that, Ling Xiao sneered in his heart, but there was a touch of sadness on his face. That remnant soul was cruel and merciless. He often threatened brother Lin Shi, saying that if he dared to expose his identity, he would kill all the people he cared about. So, he pretended to break up with you and silently suffered all the consequences. Bai Ling's tears fell like rain, falling on the withered leaves on the ground, making a crisp sound. No, your brother. He destroyed his own divine soul and destroyed his memory. Such a magnificent feat made me cry for an entire 7 days, 6 nights, and 6 hours. But I, Ling Xiao, am not a coward. Even if that remnant soul is terrible and was in the venerable realm when he was alive, I will avenge brother Lin Shi. Before his cultivation recovers, I will kill him in this secret realm. Ling Xiao gritted his teeth, and the power around him soared to the sky, attracting countless clouds and thunder from the sky. So, this is the truth of the matter? Bai Ling looked at Ling Xiao with a complicated expression. At this time, the young man in front of her seemed to be exuding a golden light, sacred and magnificent. If there was a trace of hesitation in Bai Ling's heart before, she was really willing to believe this young man's words now. Otherwise, why would he tell her that Lin Shi was here? If what he said was false, as long as she found brother Lin Shi, wouldn't everything be clear? Whoosh! The blood-red chain around Ling Xiao quietly dissipated, and the latter rushed to Bai Ling without hesitation and hugged her tightly in his arms. Sister, I finally found you. I didn't let down brother Lin Shi's will. I finally found you. Promise me, don't leave me, okay? Ling Xiao buried his head in Bai Ling's hair, and there was a touch of intoxication on his face. He confirmed the smell. It was the silly lowly. Ling Xiao, brother Ling Xiao, The sadness on Bai Ling's face suddenly froze and turned into a touch of faint shyness. But in the bottom of her heart, she was touched by the friendship between Ling Xiao and her brother. I'm sorry, sister. I was too emotional. But now, that Lin Shi's remnant soul is in the secret realm. You must not leave my side, or if you were met by him. Ling Xiao took a deep breath, trying to calm himself down, and sighed softly. Don't leave your side. Inexplicably, a touch of coldness flashed in by Ling's eyes. Chapter 281. Big Brother Ling Xiao. A cold glint flashed across by Ling's eyes. Although Ling Xiao's performance was very emotional, how could Bai Ling completely believe his one-sided words? She had never experienced the complexity of the world, but she was not a fool. The more the former wanted to tie her to his side, the more suspicious it was. No matter whether the remnant soul was real or not, she had to personally test it. I still have some personal matters to deal with. Don't worry, I will be very careful. When I'm done with my personal matters, I will immediately come to find you. Bai Ling smiled modestly and turned to leave. Linger. At this moment, Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly flashed with a touch of bitterness. You really lied to me? Bai Ling's eyes became colder and colder, and her heart was already filled with killing intent. Although your brother's divine soul was shattered in advance, the remnant soul has been with your brother for 7 years after all. It must be very familiar with his temper and character, and also very familiar with you. This is a voice transmission talisman. If there's anything, call me at any time. I lost a good brother, and I don't want to lose a good sister. However, at this time, Ling Xiao only looked at her nervously and did not show a trace of panic. He was not worried that Bai Ling would leave. He could not wait for her to personally test it so that she could completely fall into his arms. It was just that Lin Shi, that weakling, his luck was almost exhausted. He was really afraid that Bai Ling could not help but stab his dog head with her spear. Wouldn't his efforts be in vain? Damn, you! Suddenly, Bai Ling was a little confused. This Ling Xiao used... No, what medicine was he selling? If you want to find a remnant soul, go to the west. He is proficient in the Tao of pills. I guess he must be going for the fire tribe in this secret realm. You can go there and look for him. Ling Xiao. Big brother, thank you. I will pay attention to my safety. I will not act rashly. Bai Ling took a deep look at Ling Xiao. Especially at this time, the latter had obviously guessed her intentions, but appeared to be extremely indifferent. In an instant, she felt an indescribable sense of guilt in her heart. Could it be that I'm thinking too much? But no matter what, she had to meet Lin Shi, that gentle, kind, upright, and doting brother of hers. I don't believe it. I don't believe that you would leave Linger like this. Only when Bai Ling's figure disappeared did the corners of Ling Zhao's mouth curl into a sneer. Of course, he didn't believe that Bai Ling would be so stupid as to be fooled by him with just a few words. But how much of the Lin Shi of today was the same as before? He still remembered the first time he saw that young man in the Ling people's land. He was dressed in white and had bright eyes. In his smile, there was a pure and clean confidence. But now, he didn't even trust his own grandfather. How could he trust his sister who had been missing for 7 years so easily? Moreover, Shuiyu had gained Lin Shi's trust now. If Bai Ling didn't go, who would come to borrow the cauldron from him? Everything was just the beginning. Ling Xiao sneered, and his figure instantly disappeared from the spot. Why did young master go for so long? Yilang frowned and looked in the direction of the ancient forest in the distance. For a moment, he seemed to have felt an extremely terrifying fluctuation and a woman's scream. I suspect that you are insulting young master. Is this little bit of time considered long? Beside him, Yishen frowned and coldly glanced at Yilang, causing the latter's heart to tremble. The true colors of a true dragon. Young master is the true colors of a true dragon. Let's go. But the moment the two of them finished speaking, the void in front of them suddenly shattered. Ling Zhao's figure slowly walked toward the center of the secret realm. At the same time, in the depths of the secret realm, in front of a pitch-black ancient mountain, Lin Shi looked excitedly at the strange mountain in the distance that seemed to have been burned by raging flames. The corner of his mouth faintly raised into a smile. Young master, have you found it? Beside him, Shui Yuer's pretty face was also filled with joy. It should be right. Now, only that ancient cauldron is left. Lin Shi sighed, and there was a trace of gloominess in his eyes. Sister, where are you? If you're here, with the combined strength of the three of us, as long as we lure Ling Xiao and Xia Chun into a battle, we might still have a chance. Young master, why don't I go and deceive Ling Xiao? Shui Yuer asked tentatively. No, although you and Xia Chun fell out, Ling Xiao may not believe you. It's fine. Let's wait and see. If there is no chance, I still have a way to open this relic. Lin Shi touched Shui Yuer's face with heartache. This woman is really good at deceiving others. Young master, why have I never heard you mention your family? Shui Yuer leaned gently in Lin Shi's arms and pouted her red lips. Young master, I really want to know everything about you more and more. Haha, I have a sister who has been separated for many years. My Lin family was slaughtered and we were separated. But, did you know, Yua? When I arrived at the secret realm that day, I actually saw her. She is the girl who provoked Ling Xiao. Speaking of Bai Ling, Lin Shi's face suddenly revealed a sincere smile. Ah, it's her. Young master, who slaughtered your family? Shui Yuer covered her mouth with her jade-like hand and asked with a sad expression. I didn't know at first, but now I suspect it's Ling people, but I don't have any evidence. Young master, you can tell me the appearance of the person who slaughtered your Lin family. I know most of the experts in Shenzhou. Shui Yuer's jade-like hand gently stroked Lin Shi's chest. The latter's face instantly revealed a look of enjoyment. Young master, do you still remember that person's appearance? Of course I remember. Even if I turn into ashes, I won't forget it. He is a white-clothed swordsman, surrounded by Taoist principles. Handsome, Is there a scar at the corner of his mouth? Shui Yuer suddenly broke free from Lin Shi's arms. Lin Shi's face almost instantly froze. Yes, you know him? How can I not know him? He is a heaven-rank assassin from the Blood Soul Temple. Shui Yuer sighed softly, and there was a hint of ridicule between her eyebrows. She didn't know any assassin from the Blood Soul Temple. What she said just now was transmitted by Ling Xiao's divine sense. Ever since Uncle Ghost reported to him the identity of the person who slaughtered the Lin family, Ling Xiao tried hard to recall the appearance of the white-clothed swordsman. He found that the scar at the corner of his mouth was the most special. He didn't expect that the Lin family was really destroyed by the Blood Soul Temple. However, this was in line with Ling Xiao's conjecture. That Blood Soul Temple must have taken a fancy to Bai Ling's aptitude and destroyed her whole family, causing her heart to be filled with resentment and killing. Ruthless. Sure enough, no matter which world it was, the way assassin organizations recruited disciples was extremely cruel. However, this seemed to have given Ling Xiao another opportunity to take advantage of. Suddenly, somewhere in the secret territory, Ling Xiao's face suddenly raised a smile, which scared Yi Jinseng and the others. They only felt a chill and had a premonition that they were going to be cooked. What? It's actually the Blood Soul Temple? But my Lin family has always been comfortable. How could we provoke such an evil sect? Lin Shi suddenly froze on the spot. He believed Shui Yuer's words. After all, the latter was backed by the Yinfan Holy Land and was not a decent sect. Perhaps they had some connections with the Blood Soul Temple. Moreover, since she could say the appearance of the white-clothed swordsman in advance, it was enough for Lin Shi to believe. Young master's sister is not his biological sister? Shui Yuer suddenly asked doubtfully. Lin Shi only felt his hair stand on end, but he quickly calmed down. Impossible. It can't be Ling. His Lin family had nothing. Why would they go through so much trouble for the Blood Soul Temple? There must be some misunderstanding. I heard from the old ancestor that the Blood Soul Temple has a very ancient and evil ceremony. It uses the blood of one's loved ones to comprehend the Tao law. The Blood Soul Temple has always been evil and is not tolerated by the world. Therefore, they often choose some inconspicuous small sects to cultivate their disciples. Speaking of this, Shui Yuer suddenly felt that something was wrong. She quickly shook her head and explained, "Young master, don't think too much. I don't mean anything else. I just remembered something." Chapter 282. The Blood of a Loved One. Comprehending the Principle. Lin Shi repeated Shui Yu Er's words in a daze. His face was already dull. How could it be? Impossible. Ling would never do that. But, apart from this reason, what else did the Lin family have that the Blood Soul Temple would want? Moreover, when he fell off the cliff that day, he was already dead. If he had not picked up the ring and met Elder Ling, he would have already died. Then, how did Ling survive? If it happened once, it would be a coincidence. If it happened twice at the same time, hiss. Suddenly, Lin Shi felt a chill rising from the bottom of his feet. If that was the case, then this time Bai Ling came to the secret territory. Could it be that she wanted to hone her own principle? Wait, if she did not comprehend the principle, would this conjecture be broken? That day when the secret territory opened, Lin Shi did see Bai Ling attack Ling Xiao. However, he did not have the system, so he could not tell if the latter had comprehended the principle. The pitiful Lin Shi probably didn't know that his precious little sister had been entrusted to Ling Xiao by himself. "Brother, is that you?" Just as Lin Shi was muttering to himself, a soft voice filled with longing suddenly came from behind him. Gulp! Lin Shi, who was originally cold to his waist, instantly rushed to the top of his head. Even his face became inexplicably pale. Then he slowly turned his head and looked at the face that he had been thinking about day and night for 7 years. At this moment, he felt an inexplicable fear. His heart suddenly trembled. Ling, brother, it's really you." Bai Ling's eyes were filled with tears. Even if she had already believed that the person in front of her was not her brother, she still felt that familiar aura and could not help but want to get closer to him. "You? How did you recognize me?" Lin Shi's lips trembled and instinctively stepped back. He felt that things seemed to have become more and more strange. Could it be that the Blood Soul Temple left a mark on him? But why did they not come to find him all these years? Could it be that they had achieved their goal and left him alone for a while? The stronger the whetstone, the more tenacious the saber would be. He understood this logic, but he just couldn't accept it. 7 years of yearning had been wasted, and his true love had turned into an enemy. "Big brother, even if you become a corpse, I will still recognize you." Bai Ling frowned slightly. Lin Shi's current behavior had already made her suspicious. They hadn't seen each other for 7 years. Although her appearance had changed a little, if it was her brother Lin Shi, he would definitely be able to recognize her. Now, shouldn't he be crying, holding her in his arms, and saying how much they missed each other? But now he was actually standing in the distance with his guard up. This feeling was very unfamiliar, very painful, and very infuriating. "Calm down. Bai Ling, you need to calm down." Perhaps it was because they had not seen each other for too long, or perhaps his appearance was too sudden. Besides, if what Ling Xiao said was true, Lin Shi might be a cultivator in the Martial Highness realm now. Even if his cultivation was not there, his means were not something that a Palm cultivator could contend with. She had promised Brother Ling Xiao that she would return alive. Become a corpse? Lin Shi's eyes narrowed. As expected, there was a problem. Did you hear what she said? Was this something AF * King Human would say? Haha, sister, where have you been for the past 7 years? Why did you only come to find me now? But in the end, Lin Shi still chose to hide his emotions. Before he fully understood the situation, he could not lose his composure. "I have been practicing in the Divine Temple. Big brother, how about you? How did you survive these years?" Bai Ling smiled faintly, but there was no excitement on her face. It was indeed good to specialize in alchemy. There was an obvious aura of fire in the black mountain in the distance. Perhaps Lin Shi came here for something. "Big brother, is it really not you? Divine Temple? What Divine Temple?" Lin Shi's face, which had just calmed down, instantly turned pale again. Damn, it was a match. Everything matched what Yua had said. Could it be the Divine Temple of Blood Soul? Yes. Big brother, That day when you fell off the cliff, I was chased by the white-robed swordsman. I thought I would die in his hands, but suddenly an old grandpa appeared and saved me. He even accepted me as his disciple. Bai Ling smiled sweetly, but a trace of pain flashed through her beautiful eyes. My brother, I didn't expect that farewell would become our farewell forever. Some people really turned around and became a lifetime. Old grandpa? Lin, she was stunned. Damn, you also met an old grandpa? Still alive? Is it possible? Is there such a coincidence in this world? That old grandpa did not appear earlier or later, but at the moment when my Lin family was slaughtered and I fell off the cliff. Conspiracy. This is the smell of conspiracy. Big brother? What's wrong with you? Bai Ling looked suspiciously at Lin. She's constantly changing expression, but she was more certain that this Lin she was fake. Oh, nothing. Ling, you have been practicing in the divine temple of Blood Soul all these years. Lin she hurriedly put away the gloomy expression on his face and revealed a gentle smile. No matter who Bai Ling was, since she had delivered herself to his door, it was not impossible to make use of her. But that day, she had already shown her killing intent to Ling Xiao. If she appeared in front of Ling Xiao again, it would definitely arouse his suspicion. But, I am a little expert in alchemy. If he wanted to change his appearance, it would be a simple matter. Moreover, Bai Ling was a disciple of the divine temple of Blood Soul. She must be good at concealing her aura. Ling Xiao's reputation was well known in the Shengzhou. He would not refuse a proud girl who delivered herself to his door, right? Yes, big brother, what's wrong? The brother and sister had a respectful appearance, while Shui Yu-er's face had already bloomed with a charming smile. Just now, I saw sister provoking Ling Xiao. You must know what happened to young Master Lin Shi, right? I just don't know. How is your cultivation now? That Ling Xiao is a monstrous genius with Dao laws. Since you revealed your killing intent towards him, how did you manage to escape? Shui Yu, sized up by Ling and said with an inexplicable meaning. So what if he is a demon with Dao law? My blood shadow Dao law contains the profound meaning of the killing Dao. No one can stop me if I want to leave. Bai Ling's small face raised a touch of arrogance, while Lin Shi's face suddenly became dull. Damn, it is indeed the power of Dao law. The pinnacle of the killing Dao, the blood shadow Dao law. I have the help of a venerable expert and have merged with the heaven and earth spirit fire. Until now, I have not comprehended the power of Dao law. You, a 14 or 15-year-old little girl, have comprehended the killing Dao? Suddenly, the last trace of doubt in Lin Shi's heart disappeared. Using killing to prove the Dao and comprehending the Dao law through the blood of relatives. It turns out that our Lin family is just a tool for cultivation in your eyes. Big brother, why are you here? Of course, Bai Ling could not guess what Lin Shi was thinking at this time. She just looked at Shui Yu, with annoyance. This woman emitted an itchy smell from head to toe. At first glance, one could tell that she was not a good person. Birds of a feather flocked together. Little sister, there's a creation of mine in this mountain. I am here to take back what belongs to me. Lin Shi did not mention the spiritual fire, but smiled indifferently. What belongs to you? Oh, then why don't you go up and hide in this mountain forest? Lin Shi's face darkened. Nonsense, if I had the strength, would I be hiding here? Sigh, little sister, you don't know. In order to take back this creation, I need another thing, but that thing is not with me. Chapter 283. What is it that isn't with you? Bai Ling was a little confused. If the remnant soul in Lin Shi's body was at the revered realm, even if his cultivation was not there, a wisp of soul power would not be something that ordinary people could resist. The key to open the relic is an ancient cauldron. However, that ancient cauldron was taken away by that bastard Ling Xiao. Sister, with your current strength, is it possible to Lin? She wanted to say something but stopped on second thought. Greed flashed in his eyes. Looking at his current appearance, Bai Ling's face suddenly bloomed with a bright smile. As expected, he is not my brother. My brother will not show such a wretched expression. he will not be willing to let me do dangerous things. Just now, that woman clearly said that I expressed my intention to kill Ling Xiao. But now, Brother, you can't defeat Ling Xiao? It's not that I can't defeat him. It's just that Ling Xiao is not my only enemy. There is also Yuan Yu's Saint Xia Chun and Yun Alliance's successor Su Yan. Once I appear rashly, I'm afraid that I will immediately attract their attention. However, sister, don't worry. As long as I obtain the fortune in this mountain, my strength will certainly advance by leaps and bounds. Wouldn't it be more perfect if I use it to train the Tao Law? Lin Shi's smile was extremely gloomy. Bai Ling obviously did not understand the meaning of his words. Train the Tao Law? Brother, are you saying that you will be able to comprehend the Tao Law after obtaining that fortune? No. That fortune does not belong to me alone. It is an opportunity for you and me. At that time, the two of us will be able to do whatever we want in this secret realm. Lin Shi hurriedly shook his head. The ancient ring in his hand was still flickering with a faint light. Since Bai Ling had comprehended the power of the Tao Law, he was afraid that with his current strength, he would not be able to defeat her. Even with Shui Yu, they might not be able to kill her. At this moment, Elder Ling's role was highlighted. Well, I can take this opportunity to test that old man. Oh, brother, you wanted to kill Ling Xiao and take back that ancient cauldron? Bai Ling smiled and nodded, but her face was gloomy. It wasn't that she couldn't kill Ling Xiao, but he was her brother now. Who does this Lin Shi think he is? How dare he instigate me to kill Big Brother Ling Xiao? However, she had to inform Big Brother Ling Xiao so that he wouldn't fall into this treacherous villain's trap. Sister, I know that Ling Xiao's cultivation is terrifying. Even Yuan Yu Sage is no match for him. But Lin Shi suddenly fished out a white jade pill from his bosom. This is a shape-shifting pill. If you take it, even I won't be able to recognize you. That Ling Xiao is lustful by nature. If you take the initiative to approach him, he won't be on guard at all. When the time comes, if you have the chance, you could try to kill him. Oh, why didn't brother let her go? Bai Ling pretended to be innocent and looked at Shui Yu. This shape-shifting pill can only change one's appearance, but it can't change one's aura. Sister, didn't you recognize me by my aura just now? You don't have much contact with Ling Xiao, so he shouldn't be suspicious. Moreover, haven't you been cultivating the blood hall? Aren't you good at assassination and concealment? Lin Shi explained with a smile. Shui Yu was such an upright and lovely girl. How could he be willing to let her die? As long as Bai Ling went there, if she could successfully kill Ling Xiao and take back the ancient cauldron, it would naturally be killing two birds with one stone. If she couldn't and Ling Xiao found out, then it was very likely that Elder Ling had tipped him off. At that time, he would only have himself to blame for using his lowly life to open the remains. In short, no matter whether Bai Ling's trip was successful or not, it was foolproof for him. Wonderful. Lin Shi, am simply a clever little devil. Such a good show to kill two birds with one stone. I actually planned it so carefully. Damn, let's see who dares to say that I have a low intelligence. Oh, I'm not going. Just when Lin Shi was pondering in his heart and the corners of his mouth gradually rose, Bai Ling suddenly shook her head and said in a calm tone, "Burp." The expression on Lin Shi's face almost instantly became sluggish and then turned into a ferocious expression. Bai Ling, do you know what is contained in the remains in the mountains? Bai Ling? The fox's tail is getting bigger and bigger. In the past, my brother would never call me Bai Ling because in his eyes, I was his biological sister and the surname Bai was too estranged. What is it? Bai Ling's eyes suddenly flashed with a trace of craftiness. Find out about the good fortune in the remains and tell Brother Ling Xiao that I will accompany him. It can be considered as an apology to him. It's funny that I actually wanted to kill him before. Brother Ling Xiao won't be angry, right? Since things have come to this, I won't hide it from you anymore. Ling Heir, there is an ancient emperor's inheritance in this mountain. Maybe he has the secret to becoming an immortal. As long as you help me get the ancient cauldron, I promise that we will share the good fortune in it. Lin Shi gritted his teeth, and a trace of sadness suddenly appeared on his face. Ling Er, I beg you. Have you forgotten how I hugged you and coaxed you to sleep when you were young? I'm just teasing you. Don't worry, brother. I will go and find Ling Xiao now. Bai Ling smiled and reached out to take the disguise pill in Lin Shi's hand. A trace of gloominess flashed across her beautiful eyes. A fourth-grade pill. With Lin Shi's talent, not to mention alchemy, even cultivation was strenuous. Brother Ling Xiao didn't lie to me. The one who killed Lin, she was indeed an alchemy master. Naughty Ling Er, you are still so naughty. Then I will wait here for your good news. Lin Shi heaved a sigh of relief and reached out to rub Bai Ling's hair. This scene made the latter's eyes flash with tears. In the past, every time she was naughty, brother also liked to rub her hair like this. But, in the blink of an eye, the two of them were separated by life and death. Then I will go, brother. Bai Ling put away her memories. A layer of bloody light quietly lit up outside her body, and she disappeared in a flash. Only when her aura completely disappeared did Lin Shi's face become gloomy again. It seems that my sister has changed quite a lot. Young master, are you not afraid that she will take the cauldron and open the secret realm by herself? Shui Yu Er's sudden words instantly made Lin Shi's face turn dull. F***CK. Even a wise man would make a mistake once in a while. The ancients didn't lie to me. Just now, he was only thinking about how to scheme against Bai Ling and Ling Xiao and forgot about this. He was careless. Cheer, don't worry. Even if that girl gets the cauldron, she will not be able to enter the secret realm. Elder Ling's voice suddenly came from the ring. Elder Ling, what do you mean? Could it be that there are other restrictions outside the ruins? Lin Shi's eyes narrowed, and a trace of gloominess flashed in the depths of his eyes. I still need a strand of my soul. With Elder Ling's old plan, Lin Shi's face immediately relaxed. Fortunately, it is not an incantation. Otherwise, if you told Ling Xiao, wouldn't that be able to open the ruins? Ha ha! Elder Ling is indeed thoughtful. But, Elder Ling, did you feel it just now? The Dao Law, my sister. It is very bloody and very gloomy. I am afraid that it was tempered by mountains and seas of corpses. Shearer, I am afraid that your sister is an evil cultivator. Elder Ling wanted to say something, but hesitated. He was afraid that if he said too much, it would make Lin Shi angry. After all, he had some understanding of the relationship between this disciple and his sister. In these 7 years, he had heard Ling Er's name too many times. Evil cultivator. As expected, since even this old thing said so, then it must be true. Lin Shi's body emitted a strand of killing intent. The trap had been set. Now, what he needed to do was to wait for the result with peace of mind. But no matter what, he must win this game. Chapter 284. On the other side, Bai Ling left the ancient forest and stood on top of a towering ancient tree. Her beautiful eyes were glistening with tears. Brother, I didn't expect that I had waited for 7 years. In the end, I saw you being possessed. Don't worry. After I have repaid Brother Ling Xiao's kindness, I will definitely avenge you with my own hands. Also, since you have entrusted me to Brother Ling Xiao, from today onwards, I will treat him as my brother. I will give all my love for you to him. Achoo! In the center of the secret realm, high up in the sky, Ling Xiao's face revealed an inexplicable smile again. The surrounding experts of the Flood Dragon clan shuddered. The coldness in their hearts became even more intense. So fast. At this moment, he could hear continuous beeping sounds from the system, especially the last one. Beep. The destined child is courting death. His providence has been lost. Kill him, and you will receive additional rewards. Instantly, Ling Xiao laughed out loud. Yi Shun and the others were so frightened that they almost killed themselves on the spot. It's too scary. People often say that accompanying a ruler is like accompanying a tiger. Accompanying Master Ling Xiao is simply like accompanying death. Young Master, the Xing clan has arrived. Yi Shun elbowed Ling Xiao. The latter immediately took a step forward awkwardly. He walked to Ling Xiao's side and said humbly, "Oh." Ling Xiao stopped and looked at the mountain peak not far away. His eyes narrowed slightly. At this moment, countless figures had gathered at the foot of the mountain. Many of them were famous geniuses of the eastern border. However, what surprised Ling Xiao was that the demonic light on the mountain peak had already enveloped a radius of 100 miles. However, none of the geniuses of the eastern border stepped foot on the mountain peak. "Senior, you said to wait a little longer. We have already waited here for 2 days. When can we reach the mountain peak?" In front of the crowd, a handsome young man with a cold expression stood with his hands behind his back. He shouted coldly. Behind him stood a few other young geniuses with strong auras. "I asked you to wait. Just wait. Why are you talking so much nonsense?" In front of the crowd, an old man in a black robe swept his cold eyes across the crowd. His voice contained a tinge of unquestionable dignity. He was actually an emperor god expert. "Humph! Before we entered the secret zone, the Lord of Taishian had told us that the cultivators of the Lost Clan in the secret zone were not allowed to interfere with your training. What's the matter? Are you planning to break the rules?" The handsome young man smiled indifferently and turned to look at the crowd behind him. "Fellow Taoists, what do you think? What young master Hao Jian said makes sense. Even if we go up, would this god emperor dare to attack us?" Immediately, some sky prides responded. However, the god emperor merely shook his head and smiled. He suddenly stretched out his palm and waved it down fiercely. There was a great force around him that suppressed the heavens and the earth. Instantly, everyone's faces turned pale and they retreated. As for Hao Jian's figure, he was directly sent flying, his entire head almost sticking into the ground. "I can't kill you, but that doesn't mean I can't crush you. If you have the guts, go ahead. Since the historical remains are in the Xing clan's territory, we will decide when to open and when to close." "Oh, so domineering? What if I insist on going up?" However, just as the elder finished speaking, a faint laugh suddenly came from the distant sky. Soon after, everyone saw a white-clothed figure descend from the sky and land in front of the old man. At the same time, many figures with terrifying auras flew over and stood quietly behind the young man. F***CK. It's Lord Ling Xiao. As expected of Lord Ling Xiao. He doesn't even care about the god emperor. However, who are those people standing behind him? Why do their auras seem so powerful? Many of the eastern border sky prides were surprised. Didn't the Lord of Taishian say that cultivators were not allowed to enter the secret zone? Why were there so many powerful cultivators behind Ling Xiao? Conspiracy. It was definitely a conspiracy. However, if they question him now, will they be silenced? So it's Lord Ling Xiao. What was even more puzzling was that the god emperor of the Xing clan didn't seem angry at all when he saw Ling Xiao. He even bowed. Ling Xiao? Who is Ling Xiao? Why does his name sound like a person? Yi Cheng and Yi Lang looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Could it be that the young master used an alias to travel around the outside world? It must be. The young master was such a low-key person. He even came to the Flood Dragon tribe incognito. How could he show off his identity as the great mighty heavenly dragon to others? Young master. Low-key. Do you know me? A hint of hesitation appeared on Ling Xiao's face. Could it be that my name is written all over my face? Otherwise, why would the god emperor of the Lost Clan in the secret zone bow to me? I am Xing Shun, the master of the Xing clan. I have been waiting for you for a long time. Young master, please. The relic is at the peak of the Demon Mountain. Xing Shun moved to the side and shouted loudly. Hearing that, all the eastern border sky prides were surprised, especially Hao Jian, whose face instantly turned ferocious. F***CK. Could it be that this relic was opened for Ling Xiao alone? Ling Xiao, you are domineering. You are heartless. You have gone too far. Oh, Ling Xiao raised his eyebrows slightly. In an instant, he understood the whole story. The Xing clan must have been arranged by Daoist Taishian to guard the inheritance of the sky demon here. Thank you. Ling Xiao nodded and smiled. He walked toward the peak, leaving the eastern border's sky prides standing there in a daze. For a moment, they did not know what to do. Right at this moment, Hao Jian actually took a step forward and followed closely behind Ling Xiao. Except for Lord Ling Xiao, whoever goes up will die, Xing Shun said coldly. Instantly, Hao Jian's face turned gloomy. Why? Why can he go up, but we can't? Daoist Tai Xian said that whoever can obtain the fortune in the secret zone will get it. Oh, from what you're saying, you think you're more capable than me. Ling Xiao stopped in his tracks and turned to look at the reckless youth. Is that what you guys think too? Young master, I think, just as one of the sky prides in black was about to speak, Ling Xiao suddenly stretched out his finger. Then, everyone saw how Jian, who was arrogant and despotic just a moment ago, suddenly split open and fell to the ground. What did you just say? What do you think? Ling Xiao withdrew his hand and looked at the black-clothed youth who was standing in front of everyone in a daze. I think a relic like this should be explored by young master alone. With our strength, we would be courting death if we went in. Young master's action is very righteous. You saved our lives. After the young man in black finished speaking, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed twice. I will never forget the favor of saving my life. In the future, young master will be my second parent. Gulp. The Sky Prides looked at the young Sky Prides who knelt on the ground for a long time. Their faces were already pale, and their eyes were filled with disdain. You are really a F** king dog. However, when they felt Ling Xiao's gaze on them, the Sky Prides, who were originally angry, knelt on the ground and shouted, Young master is righteous. Oh, I am very relieved that you can understand my good intentions. Don't be afraid. I'm not a good person. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and slowly walked toward the peak, leaving the Sky Prides and demons behind. They did not dare to say another word. Chapter 285. When Ling Xiao reached the top of the demonic mountain, he saw an ancient stone temple standing there quietly. The stone palace was pitch black. Demonic patterns swirled around it, giving off a boundless feeling. Endless demonic light shrouded the entire mountain like dark clouds. At this moment, the temple door was open. A faint voice came from within, as if it had been through the ages. Demon, descend. It's this voice again. Ling Xiao's expression froze. He had gone to the Four Barren Lands because he had heard the summons in his soul sea. Could it be another spiritual treasure left behind by the sky demon in this world? Finally, Ling Xiao stepped forward and walked towards the ancient temple. Boom! However, the moment his figure disappeared into the darkness, an indescribably terrifying aura suddenly enveloped him. Even with Ling Xiao's current soul strength, he could not resist at all. What entered his eyes was pitch black. The boundless darkness caused a trace of loneliness and despair to emerge from the bottom of one's heart. Moreover, what surprised Ling Xiao even more was that his connection with the demon subduing ancient tower was completely blocked by an unfamiliar and evil force. Is this an illusion? Or is this the sky demon's test? Ling Xiao's lips curled up slightly. He felt that this treatment was exclusive to the Son of Destiny. Could it be that as he gained more providence, he also started to have his own creation? Thump, thump, thump. It was only when the sound of footsteps was suddenly heard from afar that Ling Xiao's eyes quietly narrowed. Starlight blossomed around his body, and a thunder sun slowly rose above his head. However, what terrified Ling Xiao was that the light emitted by the thunder sun was instantly swallowed by the darkness. There was no light at all. What kind of power is this? Thump, thump, thump. The footsteps were neither fast nor slow. They were getting closer and closer. This fear of the unknown made Ling Xiao uneasy. He had a forbidden physique, but from Liang Yi's attitude, he could see some clues. The Sky Demon's true body was only the threshold to gain the recognition of the Sky Demon's old subordinates. The inheritance in this relic was the key to becoming their new master. In other words, this inheritance might not be as easy to obtain as one imagined. Once Ling Xiao died, to Liang Yi, it would be nothing more than waiting. When the footsteps stopped about 10 feet in front of Ling Xiao, the four Tao laws shone around him. The black shadow remained silent for a long time before finally letting out a soft cry of surprise. Then, the darkness in Ling Xiao's eyes became absolute. For a moment, Ling Xiao thought he was blind. What's going on? Demonic qi surged around him as the sky demon true body was unleashed to the extreme. However, Ling Xiao still couldn't see anything. He only heard the black shadow's footsteps moving further and further away before finally disappearing. An illusion? Gradually, Ling Xiao began to relax. He sat cross-legged and tried to unravel this dark secret. However, when this seemingly eternal darkness lasted for 7 days, a trace of fear finally appeared in his heart, especially when there was no difference between opening and closing his eyes. That single color made him feel extremely depressed. Later, Ling Xiao began to walk forward aimlessly. However, he didn't want to wait for death. If this was just an illusion, why couldn't he feel any fluctuations of the array? The so-called test was to fall into the darkness. To die alone? No way. As long as it was a trap, there must be a way to break it. Otherwise, why would Liang Yi spend so much effort and wait for 1,000 years? Time passed slowly. Ling Xiao didn't know how long he had walked. 1 year, 3 years, or 10 years. When he was completely exhausted, his body finally fell to the ground. In this strange world, there was no spirit qi, no vitality, and no wind. Everything seemed to be still. So, I guess I have to become a part of it. Ling Xiao lay on the ground. Although his eyes were open, he could only see darkness. This feeling was really infuriating. In the end, he closed his eyes. He didn't struggle, didn't ask for anything, and didn't think about where this place was. Loneliness, despair, and even a little sadness. Different from the brilliance of the outside world, time here was a heavy torture for any life. Another 10 years passed. Ling Xiao's heart was no longer disturbed. He was like a boulder lying quietly on the ground. Only then did he understand that both immortals and demons yearned for light. No one was born to like darkness. All the living beings curled up in the darkness were forced to do so. Just like him, he couldn't tell the difference between being alive and being dead. Gradually, Ling Xiao's body began to age. Death aura spread around him. He seemed to believe that perhaps this was his final destination. Nian Qingyun, his parents, Yi Qingchan, Lin Meng, and the others flashed past his eyes. If they know that I'm dead, they'll be very sad, right? But why do I have to die here? Since this world is dark, why don't I shatter it and restore order? For a moment, Ling Xiao suddenly understood something. Ever since he transmigrated, although he was a villain, he had never experienced true life and death. As a result, his state of mind had always been meticulous and careful, but he lacked a true domineering aura. He schemed against the people of destiny and stole their providence, but he was very cautious. In other words, he had never felt that he was the main character of this world. Yes, he wasn't, but the sky demon was. Ling Xiao seemed to have understood. When he opened his eyes again, he looked up at the sky. The primordial sky demon was born at the beginning of the primordial era, the first wisp of darkness. It suppressed the immortals and had an ancient domineering aura. Although in the end, he died on the way to resist the heavenly Tao. But from the beginning to the end, he was the one who controlled the order. When did he get controlled by the order? So, I say, there must be light in this world. Suddenly, the entire world began to tremble and buzz. Ling Xiao looked up at the sky. There, 2 blood moons began to rise. Finally, they stood above heaven and earth like eyes, looking down on the common people. It's not a blood moon. This pair of eyes, as if suddenly thinking of something, before Ling Xiao could covet the only different color in the eternal darkness, his expression suddenly changed. It's the eyes of the demonic shadow in the illusory wall. Boom! The blood moon fell, piercing through the eternal solitude. Ling Xiao only felt a stabbing pain in his eyes. Even the eye of Nirvana instinctively bloomed with golden light. However, the blood-soaked moon did not have the slightest intention of stopping. In the end, it fell into Ling Xiao's eye sockets. Intense pain assaulted him. Ling Xiao only felt that his eyes were about to shatter. An inexplicable evil wave began to rise around him. He stood there, but he seemed to be one with the darkness around him. The darkness in front of him gradually faded. It was not until a familiar figure walked over from the end of his vision that the confusion in Ling Xiao's eyes completely dissipated. "Welcome, Master." Without any hesitation, Liang Yi directly knelt in front of Ling Xiao this time. "So, the inheritance is the Sky Demon's eye and the complete Tao of darkness?" Ling Xiao shook his head with a smile. "The darkness turned into my eyes so that I can use it to look down on the light." As Ling Xiao's gaze fell, the originally dim ancient palace instantly fell into darkness. Even Liang Yi stood on the spot, somewhat frightened at this moment. He looked at everything in front of him blankly. A world with one eye, the dark domain. Is this the power of the Sky Demon's eye? Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. Compared to the eye of Nirvana, the Sky Demon's eye was clearly much more useful. In the dark domain, Ling Xiao was confident that he could fight even a Divine Lord expert. As Ling Xiao's thoughts moved, countless demonic shadows suddenly appeared in the darkness and rushed toward Liang Yi. Master. Liang Yi did not dare to hesitate at all. He instantly activated the evil dragon war body. A pitch-black giant halberd appeared in his hand, and he swept it in all directions. However, just as the black halberd in his hand smashed into the demonic shadows, the latter suddenly disappeared. Ling Xiao's figure had already appeared behind him. "In here, I am the master. Reincarnation is useless." That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.